Chapter 161. But the person who initiated the transaction in this wooden hut is really generous. Just now, the sign said, 100 spirit stones in exchange for the method to complete the chi-gathering core formula. Obviously, he intends to pay 200 spirit stones. In the Xinguang Empire, there are not many people who can fork out 200 spirit stones, right? The people who come to the black market in the capital of the Xinguang Empire are not necessarily from the Xinguang Empire. They could also be from other empires. They could not find anyone in the black markets of other empires to solve this problem, so they come to the black market of the Xinguang Empire. Indeed. To be able to fork out 200 spirit stones, even if he is an independent practitioner, he must be at least at the middle primal core stage. It would be difficult for an early primal core independent practitioner to get so many spirit stones, unless he is a core forging master of the early primal core stage. If he is not an independent practitioner, he must be from some great power on the planet of Ziyun. That power, even if it is not one of the 5 great sects or the royal families of the 5 great empires, must at least have many primal core adepts. After Zhou Donghuang entered the wooden hut, many people had gathered outside. As they discussed animatedly, they deliberately lowered their voices so that it was hard to hear. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang entered the wooden hut and immediately saw a man in a black robe and hood sitting at a wooden table. This man was of medium build, and although he was looking at Zhou Donghuang, the light in the wooden hut was dim, so Zhou Donghuang could not see his facial features clearly. Conversely, it was impossible for the other party to see his facial features clearly. On one side of the wooden table stood a middle-aged man in casual clothes. When he saw Zhou Donghuang enter, he hurriedly gestured for Zhou Donghuang to sit down. "Guest, please sit." Zhou Donghuang did not stand on ceremony and sat down directly at the wooden table, facing the person who had initiated the transaction. "Take out the core formula," Zhou Donghuang said lightly. He did not deliberately lower his voice, because even if he did, no one would be able to tell who he was from his voice. He was not from the Xinguang Empire. However, hearing Zhou Donghuang's voice, the man sitting opposite the wooden table hesitated for a moment before asking, "Sir, from your voice, you don't seem very old. Are you really confident?" His voice was old and hoarse, and it was obvious that he was deliberately lowering his voice. "Why? Are you afraid that I'm too young to complete the pill formula?" Zhou Donghuang smiled mockingly. "Sir, please don't blame me. I was just a little surprised to hear your voice." Sitting opposite Zhou Donghuang was a man in a hooded black robe. From his voice, it was obvious that he was an old man. When he spoke again, he also placed a piece of paper on the table. The old man's hands were not as old as his voice. They looked like the hands of a middle-aged man. Clearly, they were well maintained. Zhou Donghuang picked up the piece of paper the old man had taken out and glanced at it. He shook his head and sneered. "You're really careful." What the old man took out was not the incomplete formula for the chi-gathering elixir, but a detailed list of the pharmacology related to the incomplete formula for the chi-gathering elixir. "As long as you can solve the problem above, the formula for the chi-gathering pill in my hands will naturally be complete," the old man said. "Are you confident?" asked the old man again. Zhou Donghuang did not respond to the old man. Instead, he casually picked up the pen on the side of the wooden table and pulled out a piece of paper from the stack beside the pen. Whoosh! 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 Under the old man's gaze, Zhou Donghuang picked up the pen and quickly wrote on the paper. After a while, he stopped and handed the paper to the old man. When the old man finished reading the words on the paper, his eyes narrowed, and his expression was one of shock and disbelief. Of course, because the old man was wearing a hooded black robe and the light in the wooden hut was dim, no one could see his expression. But in the quiet wooden hut, the old man's heavy breathing could be heard clearly. How did you get this formula?" After a while, the old man finally spoke, his voice trembling with shock. The words written on the piece of paper in his hands were the same formula that he had in his hands. The incomplete part was still incomplete. Everything else was exactly the same. It was as if the person in front of him had a formula that was exactly the same as the one he had in his hands. Since it's the Qi gathering elixir, of course it's the same. Seeing the incomplete part of your formula, it's not difficult to complete the rest of the formula. Zhou Donghuang said matter-of-factly. However, as Zhou Donghuang spoke, the other party fell into a dead silence for a short while, evidently frightened. Are you able to complete this formula? When the old man spoke again, there was more respect in his tone. It was obvious that he did not dare to underestimate Zhou Donghuang just because he sounded young. Of course. As Zhou Donghuang spoke again, he took out another piece of paper from the pile beside the wooden table and wrote on it for a while before throwing it to the old man like he was throwing rubbish. The old man received it like a treasure, carefully looking at the young man from the black market, who had intentionally turned his head away to avoid arousing suspicion. Then, he looked seriously at the words on the paper in his hands. The more he read, the more excited he became. Although his face could not be seen clearly, his trembling body could tell how excited he was. "How is it?" Zhou Donghuang asked casually. He was not worried that the old man would go back on his word. If the old man said that the formula he had completed was useless, the black market would naturally send a core forging master to verify it and ensure that the transaction was absolutely fair. "You are a genius." The old man carefully kept the paper in his pocket, and after much difficulty, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and sighed repeatedly. At the same time, he looked at the young man from the black market. "I am very satisfied with this transaction." As he spoke, he took out a parcel from within his black robe and opened it to reveal a pile of white jade stones. It was not difficult to recognize that these were inferior quality spirit stones. A total of 200 spirit stones. The old man piled the parcel in front of the young man from the black market as he spoke. The young man stepped forward and nodded after a moment. 200 spirit stones, not a bad amount. Then, he counted out 100 spirit stones and pushed them in front of Zhou Donghuang. "Guest, this is what you have obtained from this transaction." Zhou Donghuang did not speak again. He silently put the 100 spirit stones in his pocket, stood up, and turned to leave the wooden hut. "Are you from the Shunguang Empire?" Just as Zhou Donghuang was about to leave, the old man's voice came from behind him. "No." As Zhou Donghuang spoke, he had already opened the door of the wooden hut and walked out. "He's out. He's out. Do you think this transaction is completed? Do you still need to ask?" "Definitely not." Seeing that Zhou Donghuang had come out so quickly, the few people outside the wooden hut who had not left in time began to discuss in hushed voices. From their words, it was obvious that they did not think that Zhou Donghuang would be able to successfully complete this transaction. However, when they realized that after Zhou Donghuang's figure had disappeared, another black figure walked out from inside, they could not help but be stunned. Is the transaction completed? Not necessarily. Perhaps the person who initiated the transaction is preparing to leave and does not intend to continue waiting for others to complete the transaction. I don't know if the person who came out first was the person who went in later to complete the transaction, or if the person who came out later was the person who went in later to complete the transaction. As the few people discussed animatedly, Zhou Donghuang had already passed by several deceptive buildings and decorations. It was not that he wanted to conceal himself by passing by these buildings and decorations, but that he had to pass by these buildings and decorations on his way. And this was also the intention of the black market. The goal was to allow the people inside to easily conceal themselves, so that they could not be located. After walking through the other two corners of the black market square, Zhou Donghuang prepared to leave, because he basically did not have the things that those people had used spirit stones to exchange for, but there were some people who had used spirit stones to exchange for elixir formulas, and Zhou Donghuang had those elixir formulas, but the value of those elixir formulas was not something that could be exchanged with spirit stones. Naturally, Zhou Donghuang would not allow himself to be taken advantage of. 100 spirit stones should be enough for now. With this thought, Zhou Donghuang left the black market square and walked into one of the passageways at the exit. He took off the black robe and hat he was wearing and handed it to the servant girl who was guarding there, then strode out. No one knew that when this youth, dressed in robes whiter than snow, left, he had 100 spirit stones in his pocket. When he returned to the inn, Zhou Donghuang found that Su Mo had already returned. "Master, did you find anything?" asked Su Mo, who was waiting in the courtyard. "Let's talk inside." Zhou Donghuang strode into his room, and Su Mo followed closely behind. This guest courtyard, besides a spacious courtyard, had 2 other rooms. Big gold rested in the courtyard, while Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo each had a room. Now, Zhou Donghuang entered his own room. As Su Mo closed the door, Zhou Donghuang unhurriedly took out the 100 spirit stones from his pocket and placed them on the table in front of the bed. This, although it was the first time that Su Mo had seen spirit stones, it did not affect his ability to recognize them. "Master, how did you do it?" Su Mo's expression was one of shock as he asked incredulously. "I helped someone complete an elixir formula." Zhou Donghuang's expression was calm, and there was no change in his tone, as if he was describing an insignificant matter. "That elixir formula must not be simple, right? Otherwise, the other party would not have taken out 200 spirit stones." Su Mo's eyes were filled with curiosity. "A formula for a qi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to qi by 12 times. Zhou Donghuang said. Hiss, just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, Su Mo could not help but gasp. He shook his head and said, "Master, you are at a disadvantage. A formula for a qi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to qi by 12 times, as long as the price is right, once it is distributed, it will be enough to monopolize the entire qi-gathering elixir market on the planet of Ziyun. So far, the best qi-gathering elixir on the market of the planet of Ziyun can only increase the sensitivity to qi by 10 times. Chapter 162. A qi-gathering core that increases the sensitivity to qi by 12 times, and monopolizes the qi-gathering core market on the planet of Ziyun? Hearing Su Mo's words, Zhou Donghuang did not comment. When he had completed the formula for the qi-gathering core, he had specially marked out some of the herbs that were of high value for the other party. Although there were many cheap herbs that could replace those precious herbs, he still had a trick up his sleeve. Now, not only could he produce a better formula for the qi-gathering core, but he could also save more than half the cost of the same formula in his hands. Unless he had his permission, the other party would not be able to use the formula to produce the qi-gathering core to monopolize the market on the planet of Ziyun. Furthermore, even without his permission, the cost of producing the qi-gathering core with the formula would be very high, and there was basically no possibility of monopolizing the market on the planet of Ziyun. Currently, on the planet of Ziyun, the best qi-gathering core that can increase the sensitivity to qi by 10 times, how much does one cost? Zhou Donghuang asked Su Mo. Because of what Su Mo had just said, Zhou Donghuang had a flash of inspiration, and he had thought of a way to earn large amounts of spirit stones. Half an hour later, Su Mo left with the core formula that Zhou Donghuang had written for him and went alone to the black market. In the black market, it was usually the party who initiated the transaction who paid the commission to the black market. However, there was one circumstance in which the party who initiated the transaction did not have to pay. That was, when the party who initiated the transaction made it clear that he would not bear the commission of the black market. Under such circumstances, as long as the item he offered was sufficiently tempting, the person who wanted to trade with him was often willing to bear the commission of the black market. In just half a day, a shocking piece of news spread from the black market and exploded in the upper circles of the Xinguang Empire, shaking the entire upper circles. The formula for a qi-gathering core that increases the sensitivity to qi by 10 times, and the cost of the herbs to produce a furnace of qi-gathering core does not exceed 1 tael of gold? Is that true? The news came from the black market, and now that person is still in the black market waiting for people to go over to trade. Since he has gone to the black market, I don't think he is joking. As far as I know, a qi gathering core on the market that increases the sensitivity to qi by 10 times costs 1 tael of gold, right? A cauldron of qi amassing pills should have at least 5 completed pills, right? I've heard from an alchemist that in their circle of alchemists, the qi amassing pill, which can increase the sensitivity to qi by 10 times, costs around 3 taels of gold. That is to say, no matter who obtains the formula sold by this person in the black market, that person, and that person's power, will monopolize the entire qi-gathering pill market on the planet of Ziyun? The top powers of the Xinguang Empire sent people to the black market, even if some of them could not afford to purchase the formula for the qi-gathering core. Right now, the person in the black market was selling the qi condensation pill formula, asking for 1,000 spirit stones, and the buyer would bear the black market's processing fees. In other words, no matter who it was, anyone who wanted to buy the formula for the qi-gathering pill would have to pay 2,000 spirit stones. Apart from the Xinguang sect, which backed the Xinguang Empire, there were only a handful of powers in the region surrounding the Xinguang Empire that could fork out 2,000 spirit stones. Furthermore, these powers were all closely related to the Divine Light sect. In the black market, the cost of refining the qi condensation pill, which could increase the sensitivity to qi by 10 times, did not exceed 1 tael of gold. Once the formula appeared, even the person in charge of the black market was alarmed. The person in charge of the black market was the third elder of the Divine Light sect, a late primal core adept, and a strong, bald old man. The old man had 9 scars on his head and wore a silver cassock. He was an old monk. The old monk sat cross-legged in the air above the bed, his body surrounded by a faint silver glow. Anyone with a keen eye could tell that he was a late primal core adept, a silver essence adept. Third elder, should we, at that moment, in a spacious room in the black market, a middle-aged man looked at the old man sitting cross-legged in the air above the bed. His hand was like a knife as he pressed it against his neck. The other party has taken out such a formula, obviously intending to sell it to the Divine Light sect. The old man's eyes flashed with wisdom as he said lightly, "If we kill him, even if we obtain the formula, the reputation of the Divine Light sect will be tarnished. Furthermore, the 4 main sects will definitely cause trouble. When that time comes, it will not be as simple as paying 1,000 spirit stones." The black market had its rules. If any of the 5 main sects dared to steal what they were guarding and break the rules, they would be punished with a fine of 4,000 spirit stones. That's true. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Go through the proper procedures, take out 1,000 spirit stones from the black market's warehouse and give it to that person in exchange for the formula in his hands. If the spirit stones in the warehouse are less than 1,000 times the amount, come find me, and I will pay for the sect first. The old man continued, I remember that the core forging master who recently came from the sect to be on duty at the black market was Alchemist Su? Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. Alchemist Su's skill in alchemy is second to none in the entire Ziyun planet. With him following you, he will be able to tell the authenticity of the formula at a glance. As he finished speaking, the old man waved his hand casually, indicating for the middle-aged man to leave. Go. I will take my leave. The middle-aged man respectfully retreated. In a wooden hut in the corner of the square of the black market, Su Mo, who was shrouded in a hooded black robe, was still very unsettled, even though he had already waited for a few hours. Master, what kind of person is he? How can he even produce such a formula? Now, Su Mo felt that his master was becoming more and more unfathomable. Although he was young, his eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life from time to time, and his shrewdness in dealing with people, as well as his abilities in medicine and alchemy, were clearly far superior to any medicine master or core forging master on the planet of Ziyun. Sometimes, he even wondered, was his master some kind of old monster who had been reincarnated with his memories? Otherwise, there was no way to explain his unfathomable abilities. In the entire Xinguang Empire, I'm afraid only the Xinguang sect would buy such a formula. Even if other powers bought it, it would eventually be snatched away by the Xinguang sect. Su Mo was very clear on this point. Therefore, when an elder of the black market appeared with an elderly core forging master, Su Mo was not at all surprised. Here are 1,000 spirit stones. The elder of the black market was the middle-aged man who had previously gone to find the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Xinguang sect. He casually placed a wooden box filled with spirit stones in front of Su Mo. I need a space ring, Su Mo said casually. Su Mo said indifferently, otherwise, when I leave the black market with this box, everyone will know that I'm the one who sold the pill formulas. A space ring looked like an ordinary ring, but it was a magical ring that could hold things. It was made by combining a space stone with a special method of forging weapons. Primal core adepts, as long as they knew how to make a space ring and had a space stone in their hands, could make a space ring. The higher the quality of the space stone, the larger the storage space of the space ring that was made. On the planet of Ziyun, a space stone that could be made into a space ring was even more precious than a spirit stone, because space stones were even rarer and rarer than spirit stones. On the planet of Ziyun, even the worst space ring is worth more than 1,000 spirit stones. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed coldly, and he said in a low voice, "You, don't push your luck. This business, the Xinguang sect will handle it yourself, and I'm sure you won't have to pay an additional 1,000 spirit stones as a processing fee. I want a space ring, that shouldn't be too much, right?" Although Su Mo's tone remained calm, his heart was in his throat, because he knew that the elder of the black market before him was at least an early primal core adept, and possibly even a mid-primal core adept. If he wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as killing an ant. Humph. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, and with a flip of his hand, a simple and unadorned stone ring appeared out of thin air, and he placed it on the table. On his right hand, there was a ring that was almost identical to the one he wore on his middle finger. Obviously, he had a space ring of his own. "Thank you, Elder." Seeing this, Su Mo smiled and thanked him. "Don't be too happy yet. If there is a problem with the formula, this space ring and these 1,000 spirit stones will not be yours to take," the middle-aged man said in a low voice. "Of course." As Su Mo responded, he took out the formula from his pocket and placed it on the table. "Alchemist Su." At the same time, the middle-aged man stepped aside and respectfully invited the skinny old man in gray to the table. "Alchemist Su?" Su Mo asked hoarsely. "Alchemist Su Fu of your sect?" Su Fu, one of the alchemists of the Xinguang sect, was also a mid-primal core adept, but the reason why Su Mo had lost his composure was because Su Fu was known as the top alchemist of the planet of Ziyun. It was said that Su Fu was not a native of the planet of Ziyun, but had come from a planet with a divine transformation adept. In order to escape the pursuit of his enemies, he had come to the planet of Ziyun to live in seclusion. The divine transformation adept was a stage above the Dharma laws stage. Even the Tianxian planet, where Luo Qinghan was from, had not produced an adept of the divine transformation stage for more than 1,000 years. "That is me." As the old man responded, he picked up the formula and looked at it. At first, his expression was normal, but as he read, his face flushed red with excitement. "Alchemist Su, is there a problem with this formula?" the middle-aged man asked. "No problem." The old man shook his head, unable to conceal the excitement in his voice. "Even the top sects in my hometown, which have soul formation experts and monopolize the entire planet's chi-gathering pill recipes, can't compare to this kind of chi-gathering pill recipe. It is the same chi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to chi by 10 times, but the cost of refining a batch of chi-gathering elixirs is more than double the cost of this formula. 1,000 inferior quality spirit stones and an inferior quality space ring for this formula, it is worth it. Absolutely worth it." Chapter 163. The formula for the qi-gathering core that Su Mo had produced had gained the approval of Ziyun's top core forging master, Su Fu. He kept the 1,000 spirit stones in his space ring and brought them out of the black market. Of course, to be on the safe side, Su Mo did not leave the black market immediately after he got the item. Instead, he wandered around the black market plaza for 4 hours before leaving the black market. This was also to avoid being targeted by others. Many people thought that he would leave the black market as soon as he completed the transaction. However, he did the exact opposite and stayed in the black market for another 4 hours. He only left the black market in the wee hours of the next day and returned to the inn. However, what Su Mo did not expect was, even so, he had still been targeted. 17th Elder. In a brightly lit room in the black market, an old man reported respectfully to a middle-aged man. From the time you asked me to investigate last night, I have carefully investigated all the people who entered and left the black market yesterday. Among them, there are a total of 52 unfamiliar faces. The people on duty at the various gates of the black market all said that they had no impression of these people. These people could be coming to the black market for the first time. Of course, there could also be some who have not been here for a long time. The portraits of the 52 people are all here. As soon as the old man finished speaking, he took a few steps forward and handed a large stack of portraits to the middle-aged man. If Su Mo were here, he would definitely recognize him immediately. This middle-aged man was the elder from the black market who had made the transaction with him last night. And this elder was also the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, a mid-primal core adept. Yesterday, the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Divine Light sect, had spoken. Although he did not allow Lu Xuanyu to destroy the reputation of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu did not give up. He intended to start with the people who had entered and left the black market yesterday, mainly looking for unfamiliar faces. He felt that those who could produce the formula for the qi-gathering core could not be people who frequented the black market. They were most likely unfamiliar faces. 52 people. Now, Lu Xuanyu had a total of 52 portraits in his hands. There were old men, old women, middle-aged women, young men, young women, and a few young girls. Wow! 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 Of the 52 portraits that Lu Xuanyu had flipped through, the portraits of Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo were among them. Go and investigate these people. At the same time, investigate the people who left the black market in the past few days and compare them with the people who came in yesterday. At this point, Lu Xuanyu's eyes flashed with wisdom. I'm worried that he'll stay in the black market for a few days before leaving. Those who left before the time I completed the deal with him last night can be eliminated. This way, it will be much easier to investigate. After saying that, Lu Xuanyu added another sentence. Go ahead. Remember to keep me updated on your progress. Lu Xuanyu looked deeply at the old man in front of him. If I can recover the 1,000 spirit stones and the spatial ring, I will give you 100 spirit stones. Thank you, 17th Elder. The old man thanked him profusely. When he turned around and left, his gait was as if there was wind behind him. 100 spirit stones. Even though he was an early primal core adept of the Divine Light sect, he could only receive 1 spirit stone every month. It would take him 8 or 9 years to accumulate 100 spirit stones. After the old man left, Lu Xuanyu's eyes flashed, and he muttered to himself, if it were just a few dozen or 100 spirit stones, would not have bothered to spend so much effort to investigate you, but, 1,000 spirit stones and a spatial ring, you are worthy of me investigating with great fanfare. Lu Xuanyu was investigating the person who had sold the qi-gathering elixir to the Divine Light sect, not on behalf of the black market, but on behalf of the Divine Light sect. He was investigating for himself. After the investigation, he was prepared to take action himself and snatch the spirit stones and spatial ring from the other party. At that time, the spirit stones and spatial ring would all be his. Although Lu Xuanyu was the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect and had attained the mid-primal core stage, every month, the Divine Light sect only gave him 3 spirit stones. 1,000 spirit stones and a spatial ring worth more than 1,000 spirit stones were already worth his effort. In an inn in the capital of the Xinguang Empire, Su Mo immediately went to the youth's room after he returned and knocked on the door. "Master, the 1,000 spirit stones are in this spatial ring." After the youth opened the door, Su Mo handed the spatial ring in his hand to the youth. He looked at the youth with even more respect than before. The core forging master of the Divine Light sect, Su Fu, was the best core forging master on the planet of Ziyun, and he had come from a planet with a primordial soul adept. However, Su Fu said, the formula for the chi-gathering elixir that his master had taken out was not even comparable to that of the planet with a primordial soul adept. What did this mean? It meant that the level of his young master's alchemy skills could very well be above the level of alchemy on that planet. I, Su Fu, am recognized as the best core forging master on the planet of Ziyun, but my level of alchemy is not even worth mentioning when placed on the planet where I came from. Even if I were in the top 10,000, I might not even make it. These were the exact words that Su Fu had said to the elder of the Black Mayor in front of Su Mo. And because of this, Su Mo increasingly felt that his master was not simple. If he followed him all the way, there was a chance that he might one day enter the Dharma stage, or even the primordial soul stage. As for the primal core stage, to him now, there was no longer any suspense. Only 1 square foot? Zhou Donghuang took the space ring and infused his qi into it. An image appeared in his mind, and in the image was a narrow space of 1 square foot. 1,000 spirit stones almost filled up this narrow space. The size of the space inside a space ring was divided into different grades. An inferior grade space ring referred to a space ring with a space of less than 3 square feet. The smallest space ring would not be smaller than 1 square foot. The space ring in Zhou Donghuang's hand had a space of 1 square foot. It could be said to be a defective inferior grade space ring. I'll use it first. When I enter the primal core stage, I'll use the Samadhi fire to refine it again and increase the space to 2 square feet. Zhou Donghuang thought to himself. With Zhou Donghuang's skills, he could maximize the use of the space stone to make a space ring. Although the quality of the space stone used to make the space ring in his hand was very poor, he could still use it to make a space ring with a space of 2 square feet. Here are 100 spirit stones. Take them and practice. Zhou Donghuang took out 100 spirit stones and handed them to Su Mo. In the next period of time, I intend to practice in seclusion. If you want to use these spirit stones to enter the primal core stage in half a year, in this period of time, if you have nothing else to do, you'd better practice in seclusion with me and Big Gold. As he spoke, Zhou Donghuang reminded Su Mo before turning to return to his room. Bang! It was only when the young man closed the door behind him that Su Mo came to his senses. Looking at the 100 spirit stones in his hands, his eyes were filled with disbelief. Master just said. I can enter the primal core stage in half a year? Really? Because this was too shocking, even Su Mo could not believe it. But, in the end, he still chose to believe his master. In the room, Zhou Donghuang sat cross-legged on the bed. On the bed around him, 1,000 spirit stones were arranged in a complicated pattern. At first glance, these spirit stones seemed to be placed there casually. But, if one looked closely, one could faintly see that the arrangement of these spirit stones was obviously profound and not random. I never thought that I would be able to obtain 1,000 inferior quality spirit stones in such a short period of time. With these 1,000 inferior quality spirit stones, I should be able to set up a small energy gathering formation. As Zhou Donghuang placed his hand on one of the spirit stones in front of him, the 1,000 spirit stones in his body suddenly lit up. In the next moment, 1,000 rays of white light shot out from the 1,000 spirit stones, intertwining and finally forming a bell-shaped light shield that enveloped Zhou Donghuang within. With this energy-gathering formation, the power of the Buddhist essence, the Khanate elixir, with the Lord of the Four Supremes, I will definitely enter the primal core stage in half a year if all goes well. With this thought, Zhou Donghuang closed his eyes and began to practice. At the same time, he could clearly see that the spirit energy in the air was being absorbed by the energy-gathering formation at an extremely fast speed, forming a clearly visible whirlpool of white mist at the top of the formation. After the spirit energy was absorbed by the energy-gathering formation, it all flowed into Zhou Donghuang's body, following the route of the Lord of the Four Supremes to circulate round after round, finally transforming into qi that belonged entirely to him. The energy-gathering formation was a type of formation that gathered spirit energy, and it could absorb the spirit energy in the surroundings at an extremely fast speed. Practicing in the energy-gathering formation allowed one to advance by leaps and bounds. Zhou Donghuang was now only a Khanate stage adept, and even a small energy-gathering formation was enough to allow his level of practice to advance by leaps and bounds. Of course, as he practiced, Zhou Donghuang did not forget to take care of Su Mo and the golden-crowned eagle, Big Gold. The power of the Buddhist essence extended from time to time, enveloping their bodies. 17th Elder, we can basically confirm that the person who sold the formula for the qi-gathering core to us was that middle-aged man of unknown origin. A month later, the 17th Elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, was in his room in the black market as the old man reported to him. Nothing can be found out? Lu Xuanyu asked with a slight frown. Those who could not be found out were either people who had hidden themselves from the world from a small place, or people with a powerful background that could not be found out. As this concerned the spirit stones and space rings from the black market, he had to be careful. So far, we can only find out that he and the young man beside him rode the early Khanate stage demon, the golden-crowned eagle, to the capital. The old man said, and when they entered the city, the middle-aged man killed the 8th elder of the Yang family, Yang Wei. The Yang family is still investigating the murderer. Chapter 164. Killed the 8th elder of the Yang family? Lu Xuanyu raised an eyebrow. How did the conflict start? It is said that the middle-aged man saw a primal core adept flying into the city and exclaimed in surprise. Then, the 8th elder of the Yang family, Yang Wei, mocked him for being from the countryside and lacking in experience, and then a conflict broke out. The old man recounted the results of his investigation. Yang Wei attacked first. However, he was only a mid-Khanate adept, while the middle-aged man was a late Khanate adept. He injured Yang Wei in the air, and Yang Wei fell to his death. Saw a primal core adept and cried out in surprise? Lu Xuanyu's eyes lit up. From this, we can see that the middle-aged man rarely sees primal core adepts. This eliminates the possibility that he has an extraordinary background. We can't find out his background because he is a recluse from some small place. Lu Xuanyu looked at the old man with a greedy gleam in his eyes. That person, where is he now? Yun Tai-in. The old man smiled bitterly. Yun Tai-in? Lu Xuanyu frowned. He is actually staying in an inn under the name of the 6th elder? The 6th elder that Lu Xuanyu spoke of was the 6th elder of the Shenguang sect. Some of the elders of the Shenguang sect had properties in the capital of the Shenguang Empire. For example, the 6th elder of the Shenguang sect had opened an inn in the capital of the Shenguang Empire. That inn was called Yun Tai-in. It was located in the most prosperous area of the capital of the Shenguang Empire, and was one of the best inns in the capital. It is precisely because he is staying in the 6th elder's inn and has not left for almost a month that things are a little tricky. Even if he has no background and is only average in ability, we cannot barge into Yun Tai-in to steal his spirit stones and space ring. The old man smiled bitterly. Otherwise, the 6th elder will definitely receive the news and even know the inside story. Once the matter is exposed, I am afraid the sect will not let you off lightly. We can only wait for them to come out. Lu Xuanyu spoke with a dark expression. What the old man had said was exactly what he was afraid of. If it had been an ordinary elder of the Divine Light sect, he could have chosen to work with him and split the spoils after stealing the middle-aged man's spirit stones and space ring. However, the sixth elder belonged to a different camp within the Divine Light sect. He could not wait to get hold of Zhou Donghuang's weakness, so how could he possibly cooperate with him? I see. Lu Xuanyu looked at the old man and said, "Find someone to go to the Yang family and tell them that the person who killed their eighth elder is staying in the Yuntai Inn. Let's see if they have a way to lure that middle-aged man out of the cloud platform inn. If they can't, then we can only wait." Lu Xuanyu said. "I'll go find someone to go to the Yang family." The old man acknowledged and retreated. When the old man sent people to the Yang family and informed them that the person who killed the Yang family's eighth elder, Yang Wei, was staying at the Grand Cloud Inn, although the Yang family could not wait to seek revenge, they did not dare to act rashly. The Yuntai Inn's background was directly connected to the Divine Light sect, and it was the property of the sixth elder of the Divine Light sect, a late primal core adept. It was not something that the Yang family could afford to offend. Send an invitation to that person. Tell him that the Yang family is hosting a banquet at the Soaring Dragon restaurant tomorrow. If he gives us face, we will only let him pay with his life for the eighth elder's death. If he does not give us face, the young man beside him must pay with his life as well. The Yang family chief ordered someone to send an invitation to the Grand Cloud Inn. However, when the invitation was sent out, it was like a stone sinking into the ocean, with no response. "Chief, according to the people at the inn, that person and the young man beside him have not left the guest room for more than a month, however, we can be sure that they are still inside. They are suspected to be practicing in seclusion." Very quickly, the Yang family chief heard this news from the Yang family disciples who had gone to the Grand Cloud Inn to ask around, and he could only order people to take turns watching the main door of the Grand Cloud Inn. As soon as that person or the young man beside him went out, they were to report to the Yang family immediately. Of course, while the Yang family was watching the main door of the Grand Cloud Inn, the men under the old man of the Black City and the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, were also watching in shifts. The Yang family wanted to avenge the 8th elder of the Yang family. Lu Xuanyu, on the other hand, wanted to snatch the spirit stones and space rings from the target. Practice knew no time. In the blink of an eye, a full 7 months had passed since Zhou Donghuang had used 1,000 spirit stones to set up the energy-gathering formation. At this time, the Ziyun era had entered the end of the year 1230. Winter had arrived, and the surrounding areas of the Xinguang Empire were covered in white snow, as if everything had been draped in a layer of silver. Master really did not lie to me. In just over half a year, Su Mo have attained the primal core stage. In one of the rooms in a spacious courtyard of the Yuntai Inn, the elegant middle-aged man who had been sitting cross-legged and cultivating with his eyes closed suddenly opened his eyes. In the next moment, faint white halos surrounded his body, lifting him up into the air in a wobbly manner. I had thought that I would need at least 10 more years to break through. I did not expect to break through so quickly. Now, the elegant middle-aged man flying unsteadily in the air was none other than the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters, Su Mo. In the short span of half a year, Su Mo had first attained the ultimate Khanate stage in the previous month, and then successfully attained the primal core stage in the following 6 months. At this moment, the qi in his dantian had been completely compressed into a white primal core, and the qi had completely transformed into inner yuan. The dantian was formed in the body of a qi-gathering adept after attaining the Khanate stage, and the qi of a Khanate stage adept was stored in the dantian. And when a Khanate stage adept attained the primal core stage, not only would the qi in the dantian be compressed into a primal core, but the dantian and the meridians of the body would also undergo a transformation and become more resilient. Otherwise, there would be no way to withstand the impact of the inner yuan. If one were to say that the biggest difference between a Khanate stage adept and a qi-gathering adept was whether qi could be released, then, the biggest difference between a primal core adept and a Khanate stage adept was the complete transformation of power. The transformation of qi into inner yuan was a qualitative change, the difference was so great that it could not be mentioned in the same breath. A Khanate stage adept, even an ultimate Khanate stage adept, still had the body of a mortal, and if they fell from the sky, they would die without a doubt. However, a primal core adept was completely different. A primal core adept could use his physical body to fly, and adepts who were above the primal core stage were known as demigods. This showed the huge difference between a Khanate stage adept and a primal core adept. I wonder if Master has also broken through. In a moment, after familiarizing himself with the transformation of the qi in his body, Su Mo slowly descended from the sky, pushed open the door, and walked out. And at the same time, Su Mo pushed open the door. The door of the room next door was also pushed open at the right time. A handsome young man in white with a cold temperament slowly walked out from inside. Master. After Su Mo respectfully bowed, he seriously sized up the young man dressed in snow-white robes before him. After half a year, the childishness on his master's face had completely faded. He looked a lot more mature and had become even more unfathomable. Has he broken through? The young man in white was Zhou Donghuang. It was now December 27, 1230 of the Ziyun era, and in a few days, he would be 20 years old. The childish look on Zhou Donghuang's face had faded, and he looked much more mature. Thank you, Master. Without any warning, Su Mo immediately knelt on the ground and thanked the young man before him. In the past half a year, when Su Mo practiced, it was not difficult to discover, the reason his cultivation progressed so quickly wasn't just because he had the help of the spirit stones, but more importantly, it was because the golden light that enveloped him was more than 10 times stronger than before. Because of this, his level of practice was advancing at a godly pace. And the reason why Zhou Donghuang did not continue to hide anything from Su Mo and increase the power of the Buddha's essence to the maximum was also because, half a year ago, the matter of Su Mo bringing back 1,000 spirit stones had gained his further recognition. Rise. As Zhou Donghuang spoke, he had already walked to the stone table in the courtyard and sat down. After a while, I plan to return to the 16 countries of the East Valley. Yes, Master. Su Mo stood up and stood respectfully behind the young man. At the same time, he could not help but ask curiously, Master, have you entered the primal core stage? In response to Su Mo's question, Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, but also no. And naturally, Su Mo was stunned by Zhou Donghuang's words. In fact, 2 months ago, Zhou Donghuang had already successfully condensed all the qi in his body into a primal core, and he now had the power of an early primal core adept. However, when he continued to practice, he had no way of improving that primal core. He could only continue to absorb the spirit energy into his body and turn it into qi, and then embark on the path of condensing a second primal core. In the past 2 months, he had spent a lot of effort and finally condensed a second primal core. The reason for this was entirely because of the technique that Zhou Donghuang practiced, the Lord of the Four Supremes. For ordinary people, condensing one primal core was considered to have entered the primal core stage. However, for adepts who practiced the Lord of the Four Supremes, condensing 4 primal cores was considered to have truly entered the primal core stage. Now, Zhou Donghuang had only condensed 2 primal cores in his dantian, and he was still halfway to the primal core stage required by the Lord of the Four Supremes. He needed to condense another 2 primal cores to have 4 primal cores, and only then would he be considered to have truly entered the primal core stage required by the Lord of the Four Supremes. Originally, Zhou Donghuang had wanted to strike while the iron was hot and continue to condense a 3rd primal core. However, after practicing for a few days, he realized, the 1,000 spirit stones that he had used to set up the energy-gathering spell had been completely used up. Chapter 165. The power in the Buddhist essence can only help me condense one more primal core before it will be completely used up. That is to say, even if I get another 1,000 spirit stones and set up a qi-gathering formation, I can only condense another primal core in 2 months. Zhou Donghuang was very clear about his current training situation. The Qi-gathering formation set up with the spirit stones was only part of the reason why his training speed was so fast. The assistance of the Buddhist essence was also very important, and even more important than the spirit stones. Without the help of the Buddhist essence, even if he had another 1,000 spirit stones, he would need at least a few more months to condense another primal core. Come out with me for a walk. Zhou Donghuang stood up and said to Su Mo. Now, Zhou Donghuang had the idea of leaving Yuntai Inn and going out for a walk. First, he had not had a good time in the more than half a year since he had arrived in the Xinguang Empire, and he simply wanted to go out for a walk. Second, he planned to go to the medicine shops in the capital of the Xinguang Empire to buy some medicinal herbs. Although he was not yet a primal core adept recognized by the Lord of the Four Supremes, the 2 primal cores in his body could already produce essential core and even condense the Samadhi fire. He could already start his alchemy. From today onwards, you will no longer be able to rely on my Buddhist essence to train. The help that the Buddhist essence can give you is limited to the early primal core stage. In the future, your training will mainly depend on your own talent, core drugs, and spirit stones. As they left the courtyard, Zhou Donghuang spoke to Su Mo, who was following behind him. Buddhist essence? Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Su Mo was stunned. Master, what you mean is that, the golden light that enveloped me and extended a power to aid my training originated from your Buddhist essence? You are a Buddhist adept? As he spoke, Su Mo shook his head. That's not right. In the past, before Master attained the primal core stage, you already had that Buddhist essence. That Buddhist essence was left behind by the Dharma adept of the Xinguang sect, and I obtained it by accident. Zhou Donghuang said. What? Su Mo was shocked. He had never imagined that the Buddhist essence that the people of Ziyun had been searching for would actually be obtained by his master. Furthermore, with the help of that Buddhist essence, he himself had entered the primal core stage in a short period of time. Master, if that's the case, you received the legacy of that Dharma adept from the Divine Light sect? Su Mo asked curiously. Other than the Buddhist Sarira, he didn't leave anything behind. Zhou Donghuang said lightly. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo both walked out of the main entrance of the Yuntai Inn. After half a year, there were still people from the Yang family and the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu's men, hidden outside the main entrance of Yuntai Inn, watching the people leaving the inn. As soon as the 2 of them came out, they were discovered. The target has appeared. The target has appeared. It's them. They're finally out. One of the men from the Yang family and Lu Xuanyu's men was left behind to follow Zhou Donghuang and Lu Xuanyu, while the rest quickly returned to the Yang family and the black market to report. Master, someone is following us. Not long after they left the Yuntai Inn, Su Mo, who was following closely behind Zhou Donghuang, discovered the people following them. Now that Su Mo had entered the primal core stage and become a primal core adept, his soul senses had also undergone a qualitative transformation, and it was not difficult to discover the 2 men who were sneakily following them. I discovered them just as we left the inn. Zhou Donghuang said casually. Do you need to settle this? Su Mo's eyes flashed with a cold light. As you wish. Zhou Donghuang said casually. As Zhou Donghuang's voice fell, Su Mo stopped in his tracks and turned to walk towards the 2 men following them. The 2 men, seeing that they had been exposed, naturally prepared to retreat. However, although they were fast, Su Mo's speed was even faster. In the blink of an eye, he had already captured them one after another and dragged them to a secluded alley. With a cold look in his eyes, he asked, Why are you following us? Who sent you? After obtaining the answer, Su Mo casually killed the 2 men, then once again caught up with the young man who had walked a distance away. Master, we have been exposed. Su Mo said gravely to Zhou Donghuang. Those 2 men are not from the same gang, one of them is from the Yang family. Half a year ago, when we entered the capital of the Xinguang Empire, the man whom I injured and then killed was the 8th elder of the Yang family. The Yang family somehow found out about our whereabouts, so they have been watching us since half a year ago. However, the strongest person in the Yang family is only an ultimate Khanate stage adept, so there is nothing to worry about. At this point, Su Mo paused before continuing with a fearful look in his eyes. And the other person was sent by the elder of the black market and the 17th elder of the divine light sect, Lu Xuanyu. That Lu Xuanyu hid it from the black market and the divine light sect, and wanted to steal the 1,000 spirit stones and space ring that I had exchanged for half a year ago. I really did not expect that he would actually be able to trace it back to me. As he spoke, Su Mo's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. He is the elder of the black market. As long as he has the heart to investigate you, it will not be difficult to find you. Zhou Donghuang was not at all surprised by this. The black market will not break the rules for 1,000 spirit stones and a space ring. After all, once the news spreads, the other 4 sects will definitely not let go of this opportunity to blackmail the divine light sect. On one side is the things that you have obtained, on the other side is the 4,000 spirit stones. The person in charge of the black market will definitely know what to do, and will not take the risk. Zhou Donghuang's judgment was basically in line with what Su Mo had asked. Master, although this matter does not involve the black market or the divine light sect, that elder of the black market, the 17th elder of the divine light sect, Lu Xuanyu, is also not an ordinary person. He is a mid-primal core adept. Su Mo said gravely. Even if you and I are now in the early primal core stage, even if we join forces, we are still no match for him. I just asked the people that Lu Xuanyu sent, that Lu Xuanyu did not dare to enter the Yuntai Inn to attack me because the inn is under the name of the 6th elder of the divine light sect. As the 17th elder of the divine light sect, Lu Xuanyu and the 6th elder of the divine light sect belong to different camps, so he did not dare to act rashly. Master, why don't we return to the Yuntai Inn to hide for a while? When you reach the mid-primal core stage, we will come out again? The threat came from a mid-primal core adept, and Su Mo could not help but be wary. There is no need for that. In contrast to Su Mo's fear, Zhou Donghuang appeared calm. A mere mid-primal core adept, if he insists on seeking death, I do not mind sending him on his way. As he said this, a cold light flashed in Zhou Donghuang's eyes, ready to devour someone. When Zhou Donghuang's words reached Su Mo's ears, Su Mo was naturally shocked. However, Su Mo did not doubt his master's words, and his expression returned to normal, no longer fearful of the 17th elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Lu Xuanyu. Of course, the shock in his heart was like a raging wave. In just half a year, his master was not even afraid of a mid-primal core adept. It must be known that, to a primal core adept, the sword sphere in his master's hand no longer posed any threat. This meant that his master had other trump cards up his sleeve. Is master planning to buy medicine? As they walked, Su Mo noticed that his master ignored all the other shops and finally walked into a medicine shop. It was not difficult to guess that his master wanted to buy medicine, either to prepare medicine, or to refine elixirs. Primal core adepts could use their inner yuan to condense the samadhi fire to refine elixirs. If it was an ordinary person who had just entered the primal core stage, he did not think that the other party would have the ability to refine elixirs. After all, refining elixirs was a technical skill that required a long period of learning and accumulation. However, his master could even produce the formula for the chi-gathering elixir from half a year ago, so even if he could directly refine elixirs after entering the primal core stage, Su Mo would not be surprised. Do you have any cauldrons that a core forging master needs to refine elixirs? After buying a large pile of herbs, Zhou Donghuang asked the shopkeeper of the medicine shop directly. Sir, within the capital, there are not many medicine shops that sell cauldrons. If you want a cauldron, you can look for it in the weapons shops. As long as they are presentable weapons shops, they basically have cauldrons for sale. the shopkeeper said. Zhou Donghuang nodded. As Su Mo handed the stack of gold notes to the shopkeeper, he could not calm down for a long time. Although he had guessed it before, when he really heard the young man say that he wanted to buy a cauldron, he was still shocked. Could his master really refine elixirs when he had just entered the primal core stage? Looks like master, he could really be the reincarnation of some old monster. Su Mo thought to himself, or maybe, some primordial soul adept has been reborn. It is said that adepts who have entered the primordial soul stage can separate their primordial spirit from their physical body and take over someone else's physical body to be reborn. Although Su Mo had killed the young family man who had been following him. However, his and Zhou Donghuang's whereabouts had still been tracked by the young family. The two of them left the medicine shop, but they had not gone far before they were stopped by a group of people. The person in the lead was an old man dressed in a green robe, and there were a few others behind him, staring at Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo like a tiger watching its prey. Both of you, I am the fourth elder of the Yang family, Yang Jian, our chief invites you to the Yang family for a gathering. The old man in the green robe looked at Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo and spoke with a cold expression. You. Just as Su Mo smiled coldly and was about to step forward to deal with the person in front of him, Zhou Donghuang interrupted him. Since the Yang family has invited us so graciously, we will go with them. Chapter 166. In the capital of the Xinguang Empire, a family needed at least one primal core adept to hold the fort if they wanted to enter the upper circles. 200 years ago, the Yang family had produced a primal core adept, and the Yang family had entered the upper circles of the Xinguang Empire. Although that primal core adept of the Yang family had died of old age more than 10 years ago, the current Yang family was connected by marriage to several other families that had primal core adepts, so they were still considered a family in the upper circles of the Xinguang Empire. Although the Yang family mansion was not in the flourishing district of the Xinguang Empire, it was not difficult to see that the Yang family had once been glorious from the vast land it occupied. Inform the patriarch that we've invited him here. Before they entered the Yang family mansion, the fourth elder of the Yang family, Yang Zhuan, spoke to a junior of the Yang family. The latter responded and hurried into the Yang family mansion. Because of this, when Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo followed the fourth elder of the Yang family, Yang Zhuan, into the Yang family drawing room, the patriarch and a few elders of the Yang family had already arrived and were waiting there. The patriarch of the Yang family was a middle-aged man dressed in a white robe with silver trim. He was tall and had a dignified expression. He sat at the head of the drawing room with an air of authority. There were two people standing on either side of him. The two on the left were a middle-aged man and an old man. The two on the right were two old men. These four were all elders of the Yang family. Patriarch, we have brought them. The fourth elder of the Yang family, Yang Zhuan, entered the drawing room before Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo and reported to the patriarch. At the same time, he turned to look at Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo and introduced, the one sitting at the head is the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Ting. That is the second elder of the Yang family. That is the fifth elder of the Yang family. After introducing the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Zhuan, the fourth elder of the Yang family, continued to introduce the other four elders of the Yang family. At this moment, the four elders of the Yang family glared at Zhou Donghuang and Su Mo. After all, these two were not guests but enemies of the Yang family. It was you who killed our Yang family's eighth elder, Yang Wei? The patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Ting, stared coldly at Su Mo as he spoke in a low voice. His tone was filled with eerie killing intent. Since the two of you have come today, you will pay with your lives and stay in our Yang family forever. Since you took the initiative to cooperate with us, I'll leave your corpses intact. However, in the face of Yang Ting's icy gaze, Su Mo's expression did not change. He calmly said to Yang Ting, "Stand up." Su Mo's words not only caused Yang Ting to be stunned, but the rest of them were also stunned. You're not fit to sit in front of my master. Su Mo continued. At the same time, he looked at Yang Ting with a warning look in his eyes. Master? Hearing Su Mo's words, Yang Ting and the elders of the Yang family subconsciously looked at the young man in white in front of Su Mo. Only then did they realize that Su Mo had been standing behind the young man all along, as though he was the young man's attendant. You, a late Khanate stage adept, recognize such a young man as your master? Yang Ting once again looked at Su Mo with a look of disdain. The elders of the Yang family now looked at Su Mo with the same look of disdain. If the elegant middle-aged man in front of them had addressed the young man in white as, young master, they might have been wary of the young man's background. However, the fact that he had addressed the young man as master was completely beyond their understanding. A late Khanate stage adept recognizing a young man who looked less than 20 years old as his master? To think that you, a late Khanate stage adept, would actually recognize a young man who is less than 20 years old as your master. You're a disgrace to us Khanate stage adepts. At your age, have you been living like a dog? As fellow Khanate stage adepts, I feel ashamed for you. The elders of the Yang family all looked at Su Mo with disdain. I've given you a chance. However, Su Mo did not seem to hear or see the disdain in the eyes of the elders of the Yang family, and even the disdain in the eyes of the patriarch of the Yang family. He looked at Yang Ting and once again spoke calmly. He stepped forward and walked towards Yang Ting, who was sitting at the head of the table. What? Could it be that you still wished to spar with me, Yang Ting? Yang Ting laughed coldly. Although our patriarch is a late Khanate stage adept like you, in the entire Xinguang Empire, excluding the people of the Divine Light sect, those who are below the ultimate Khanate stage can defeat him can be counted on one hand. The fourth elder of the Yang family, Yang Jian, looked disdainfully at Su Mo, who was walking towards Yang Ting, and spoke unhurriedly. As for the other four Yang family elders, their gazes were also filled with disdain as they looked at Su Mo. Until Su Mo raised his hand and brought it down like lightning. Bang! Su Mo raised his hand, and a white energy gathered in his palm. As it expanded, a huge white palm print floated in the air above the head of the table where the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Ting, was seated. As Su Mo's palm fell, the area where Yang Ting sat was instantly enveloped by the white palm print. There was a loud sound, and the entire Yang family drawing room trembled as if there had been an earthquake. When the Yang family elders regained their senses, they discovered that after the huge white palm print that had extended from the scholarly middle-aged man's palm had landed like lightning, a huge pit had appeared in the area where the head of the table of the Yang family drawing room was. Within the huge pit, one could vaguely see the remains of the chair, clothes, and a still pool of blood. Gulp. 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 The scene before them frightened the Yang family elders so much that they seemed to forget their shock. They stood rooted to the ground, staring at the huge pit in front of them, swallowing hard, unable to regain their senses for a long time. Now, who in the Yang family can call the shots? It was only when a voice rang out in the drawing room that the Yang family elders regained their senses. Their expressions changed dramatically, and when they looked at Su Mo again, their gazes were filled with shock and fear. A primal core adept. He's a primal core adept. At this moment, their hearts were filled with resentment. They resented the person who had spread the false news to the Yang family. Who had said that the person who had killed the eighth elder of the Yang family was only a late Khanate stage adept? Wasn't this purposely setting up the Yang family? The person who had killed the eighth elder of the Yang family was clearly a primal core adept. If they had known earlier that it was a primal core adept who had killed the eighth elder of the Yang family, they would not have dared to even think about avenging the eighth elder. My master is speaking to you, did you not hear? Seeing that the Yang family elders had ignored the young man's question and were all looking at him, Su Mo's expression darkened, and a murderous look flashed across his eyes. Instantly, the Yang family elders were so frightened that their expressions changed. At the same time, they hurriedly looked at the young man dressed in white. "Sir, the chief of the Yang family is no longer here, the chief can call the shots." "Yes. The chief can call the shots. The chief is one of the 2 ultimate Khanate stage adepts of the Yang family, he can call the shots." Hearing the words of the Yang family elders, Zhou Donghuang said lightly, "If that's the case, call him over." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang walked slowly to one of the rows of chairs placed at the side of the Yang family drawing room. At this time, the sharp-eyed Su Mo had already flown forward and picked up the chair. Turning back to the young man who had not yet reached the table, he placed the chair in front of the young man. "Master, please take a seat." After the young man sat down, Su Mo clasped his hands in front of him and stood respectfully behind the young man. Seeing this scene, other than the 4th elder of the Yang family, Yang Jian, who had already left the drawing room to look for the chief of the Yang family as soon as the young man had finished speaking, the remaining 4 Yang family elders could only feel their hearts tremble. They were even more curious about the background of this young man who looked less than 20 years old, to be able to make a primal core adept willingly serve him. However, thinking of the ferocity of the primal core adept behind the young man, they only took one look at the young man before lowering their heads and standing to the side, not even daring to breathe. Pen and paper. Zhou Donghuang glanced lightly at the 4 Yang family elders. As soon as he finished speaking, one of the Yang family elders who had brought pen and paper with him hurriedly and respectfully took out the pen and paper from his pocket and handed it to Zhou Donghuang respectfully. Zhou Donghuang casually took it and then began to write on it with great flourish. About 10 breaths after the pen in Zhou Donghuang's hand stopped, a series of hurried footsteps could be heard coming from outside the drawing room of the Yang family. Following closely was a tall, white-haired old man dressed in gray, escorted by the 4th elder of the Yang family, Yang Jian, into the drawing room. "Sirs, I am the previous chief of the Yang family, Yang Qi. My unfilial son has offended you, I hope you will forgive him." After the old man entered the room, he unconsciously glanced at the huge pit in the area of the main seat of the drawing room. After secretly inhaling a breath of cold air, he hurriedly bowed and cupped his hands in apology to Zhou Donghuang and Yang Jian, his tone full of humility. More than 10 years ago, the Yang family did not fear an early primal core adept. But now, an early primal core adept, in a fit of rage, could easily destroy the Yang family. In front of a primal core adept, the Yang family would not be able to withstand a single blow. Even if the Yang family had a few marriage alliances with large families with primal core adepts, these families would definitely not offend a primal core adept for the sake of the Yang family. "Gather all the herbs on this piece of paper and give them to me within half a month. In half a month, I will come back to collect the herbs. If I am not careful, I will kill an ultimate Khanate adept of the Yang family." Zhou Donghuang stood up and raised his hand. The piece of paper in his hand was wrapped in a faint white fog and floated out until it reached the old chief of the Yang family, Yang Qi. It floated in the air for a while before Yang Qi, with a look of fear on his face, caught it. And this move of Zhou Donghuang also caused the expressions of the other Yang family elders to change. He is also a primal core adept. My God! He looks like he is not even 20 years old, and he is actually a primal core adept? Chapter 167. In the history of Ziyun, the youngest primal core adept was over 35 years old. And this young man in front of him, who did not look more than 20 years old, was already a primal core adept? In the hall of the Yang family, the fear in the eyes of the few Yang family members did not fade for a long time as they watched the young man dressed in white leave with the scholarly middle-aged man. After leaving the Yang family, Zhou Donghuang found a weapon shop and bought a furnace as well as some rare metal materials. Master, I can understand that you bought a furnace to make core drugs, but why did you buy these metal materials? Su Mo asked Zhou Donghuang curiously as he looked at the pile of metal materials in his hands. To make a primal core spirit weapon. Zhou Donghuang said casually. Spirit weapon? Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, Su Mo's eyes narrowed. Master, you know how to make weapons? Adepts of the primal core stage and above could use their inner yuan to form the samadhi fire. Not only could they use it to make core drugs, they could also be used to make weapons. Weapons made with the samadhi fire were also known as spirit weapons. The space ring was a spirit weapon, but it was the least skillful of the spirit weapons. It was more dependent on the special material needed to make it, the space stone. And among the pile of metal materials that his master had just bought, there was no space stone. In other words, his master was preparing to make a spirit weapon other than the space ring. Is it very rare? Zhou Donghuang asked. In his previous life, he was naturally most proficient in refining medicinal pills. However, he was still able to refine spirit tools below the celestial being spirit tool with ease and without the slightest effort. Just now, when he bought the furnace, he had also bought the metal materials that he wanted to use to make inferior primal core spirit weapons. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Su Mo smiled bitterly. Master, the forging of a spirit weapon is extremely difficult, even more so than most core drugs. It is said that in the entire Ziyun planet, of the 5 top sects, only 2 have a spirit weapon each. Furthermore, one of the sects paid a huge price a few hundred years ago to exchange for a spirit weapon from a Dharma adept who accidentally came to the Ziyun planet. Furthermore, they seem to be inferior primal core spirit weapons, but even if they are inferior primal core spirit weapons, they can still increase the power of the user's inner yuan by 10%. As he spoke, Su Mo's eyes burned with passion. Looks like I was right. Spirit weapons are rare items on the planet of Ziyun. Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed as he thought. Let's return to the inn first. Tomorrow, I'll make a trip to the black market and get another batch of spirit stones. Zhou Donghuang said to Su Mo. The two of them made their way back to the Yuntai Inn, and it was smooth sailing. The 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, did not send anyone to stop them. It was as if he had disappeared without a trace. Of course, Zhou Donghuang knew in his heart that his opponent was not in a hurry to make a move because he did not intend to give up. He was definitely more of a spectator. Just as Zhou Donghuang had thought. Not long after he and Su Mo returned to the Yuntai Inn, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, who was in the black market, received a report from one of his subordinates. 17th elder, those 2 people not only killed the men we sent to the Yuntai Inn, but they were also brought to the Yang family household by the Yang family. The old man stood respectfully in front of Lu Xuanyu, his expression solemn as he said, but, they left the Yang family household unscathed. Our plan to be the Oriole behind them has failed. The Yang family did not manage to hold them back. Lu Xuanyu was a little surprised. Didn't they say that the middle-aged man was only a late Khanate adept? Even if the 2 ultimate Khanate adepts of the Yang family did not make a move, it would not have been difficult for the Yang family to hold him back, right? 17th elder. The old man smiled bitterly. At first, I thought so too. But, after I asked around, I received a piece of news that I could not be sure if it was true or not. On the Yang family side, the only son of an elder of the Yang family personally spread a piece of news, whether it was the middle-aged man who killed the 8th elder of the Yang family, Yang Wei, or the young man who had grown up in the past 6 months, they were both primal core adepts. The middle-aged man still called the young man master. The young man did not look more than 20 years old. As the old man spoke, a look of suspicion surfaced in his eyes. A primal core adept who is not even 20 years old. Although this news seems plausible, I do not really believe it. A primal core adept who is not even 20 years old? Lu Xuanyu was taken aback at first, and then he could not help but laugh. In the history of the Ziyun planet, the youngest primal core adept to appear was only 36 years old, and he only entered the primal core stage. And that person was an ancestor of the Divine Light sect, one of the only 2 Dharma laws adepts in the history of the planet of Ziyun. A primal core adept who is not even 20 years old may be found on those planets that are rich in resources, but, on the planet of Ziyun, it is impossible for such a person to appear. As the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu had some say in this matter. I think so too. The old man nodded. As for the middle-aged man, it is possible that he is a primal core adept. Lu Xuanyu thought for a moment and looked at the old man. Has he returned to the Yuntai? If not, after you keep an eye on him, send someone to call me over. I will personally go and meet him. As he spoke, Lu Xuanyu's eyes flashed with greed. We cannot wait any longer. If he is really a primal core adept, in half a year, he must have used more than 100 spirit stones. Yes, 17th elder. The old man acknowledged and left. At the Yuntai. After returning, Zhou Donghuang began to refine the core drug in his room, while Su Mo stood to one side and observed. Of course, Su Mo did not dare to make such a request himself. It was Zhou Donghuang who had personally requested for Su Mo to come in and observe. Refining core drugs is similar to mixing elixirs and elixirs, but only in terms of pharmacology. In refining core drugs, besides pharmacology, controlling the fire is also very important. As Zhou Donghuang spoke, he extended the inner yuan in his body and wrapped it around the alchemy furnace, causing it to float in the air in front of him. Following this, various herbs appeared in his hands and were cut into neat sections by the inner yuan. Cutting the herbs will help to balance the medicinal properties of the herbs after they enter the alchemy furnace. A young man who was not even 20 years old was casually refining and explaining the way of refining core drugs. A middle-aged man who was already in his 70s but looked like he was at most in his 40s was like a curious baby, staring intently at Zhou Donghuang refining core drugs, afraid to miss a single detail. After about 15 minutes, the young man raised his hand and patted the alchemy furnace. Immediately, core drugs shot out from the furnace and were stored in a medicine bottle that he had prepared beforehand. These are 10 connate core drugs, the same effect as the connate elixir that I made previously, but the effect is 3 times that of the connate elixir. After keeping the bottle in his pocket, Zhou Donghuang looked at Su Mo and told him what elixir he had just made. 3 times? Su Mo was stunned. In the past, he had been shocked by the connate elixir that his master had formulated, and now, his master was telling him that the connate core drugs he had just produced were 3 times that of the connate elixir. Without waiting for Su Mo to recover from his shock, Zhou Donghuang picked up the metal materials that he had just bought and floated them in the air with his inner yuan. Then, he used his inner yuan to form the samadhi fire and melted them. Following this, under the gaze of Su Mo, who had just recovered from his shock, Zhou Donghuang combined his inner yuan with the samadhi fire to form a small hill the size of an adult's fist. When the exquisite hill formed, Zhou Donghuang's expression, which had been calm and collected, suddenly became serious. His hands moved quickly, and thousands of tiny threads of inner yuan swept across the surface of the exquisite hill, as if he was spinning silk from a cocoon. Su Mo was dazzled by this technique. Master, are you carving a matrix? The essence of making a spirit weapon is to set up a matrix. The stronger the spirit weapon, the more complicated the matrix is, and the more difficult it is to set up. Zhou Donghuang's voice rang out in Su Mo's ears. The space ring is the least difficult type of spirit weapon to make. The difficulty of making a sword sphere is similar to that of a space ring, but, unlike a space ring, the material required to make a space ring, the space stone, is extremely precious, and the material used to make a sword sphere cannot compare. Therefore, a sword sphere cannot be considered a spirit weapon, and is of no help to a primal core adept. Zhou Donghuang's words gave Su Mo a better understanding of spirit weapons. In the past, he had only known that spirit weapons were extremely precious, but he had not known the intricacies of how to make them. And because of this, he felt even more respect for the young man before him. Done. By the time Zhou Donghuang finished, it was already 2 hours later. Obviously, the effort required to make a spirit weapon was far greater than the effort required to make a core drug. Try it. Zhou Donghuang casually tossed the small hill to Su Mo, as if he were throwing away trash. Now, this small hill was not only lifelike, but it could also be vaguely seen that its body was carved with tiny, densely packed lines. For a primal core adept, whether activating a sword sphere or a primal core spirit weapon, there is no need to familiarize himself with the intricacies of the matrix. You only need to inject your inner yuan into it, and you can use it directly. Zhou Donghuang added. As Su Mo nodded, he tried to inject a thread of inner yuan into the small hill. After the injection, the small hill flew up under Su Mo's control, and as it landed with a loud bang, the power that exploded from it caused Su Mo's eyes to light up. The power has increased by a whole 10%. This was the mark of an inferior-grade primal core spirit weapon. Chapter 168. Looking at the exquisite hill in his hand, Su Mo's heart trembled. This was the inferior-grade primal core spirit weapon that there were only 2 in the entire Ziyun planet. From this moment on, including the exquisite hill in his hands, there was now another inferior primal core spirit weapon on the planet of Ziyun. Master, how did you do it? Although the metal materials you bought from the weapon shop are all rare and expensive, they are all rare and precious materials. However, they are only materials that can be bought with gold and silver, and cannot be considered as rare treasures on the planet of Ziyun. Su Mo looked at the young man in white before him, and the shock on his face did not fade. With just those materials, you were able to make the 3rd inferior spirit weapon on the planet of Ziyun? Although the materials are important to make a spirit weapon, they are not the most important, Zhou Donghuang said casually. Zhou Donghuang said calmly, the most important thing is the matrix inscribed on it. Of course, the metal materials that can be bought with gold and silver can at most be used to make inferior spirit weapons. If you want to make a better spirit weapon, you need to find other ways to obtain materials that cannot be bought with gold and silver. As he spoke, Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed. Tomorrow, I will go to the black market to get another batch of spirit stones, and also to exchange for materials that can be used to make higher-grade spirit weapons. Master, are you really confident that you can deal with the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, the mid-primal core adept Lu Xuanyu? Su Mo could not help but ask. If you are not confident enough, I think there is no need to take the risk. After all, the 1,000 spirit stones that you obtained earlier should be enough for you to use for a while. It should be no problem for you to reach the mid-primal core stage. What about the 1,000 spirit stones? Zhou Donghuang shook his head. 2 days ago, I used up the 1,000 spirit stones. Using spirit stones to set up an energy-gathering formation consumed a lot of energy, and it was much more wasteful than simply absorbing the spirit energy from the spirit stones. But the problem was, the former was more efficient. Even if it was wasteful, it was worth it. Right now, Zhou Donghuang was equivalent to 2 early primal core adepts combined into one. This was because there were 2 primal cores in his dantian, and the power that could be unleashed from either primal core was no weaker than that of an ordinary early primal core adept. What? Su Mo turned pale with fright. Used up. This was something he had never expected. However, on second thought, he remembered that his master had, in the short span of half a year, advanced from the late Khanate stage to the primal core stage. Su Mo was relieved. Spending 1,000 spirit stones for such a monstrous advancement was understandable. Master, are you planning to use this inferior primal core spirit weapon to exchange for spirit stones on the black market? Su Mo glanced at the exquisite hill in his hand, and a look of worry flashed in his eyes. If that's the case, I don't recommend it. This is because, in the eyes of the Divine Light sect, an inferior primal core spirit weapon is worth far more than a mere 4,000 spirit stones. An inferior-grade primal core spirit weapon is enough for the Divine Light sect to voluntarily accept the punishment and hand over 4,000 spirit stones to the Xianin sect and the other 3 sections. Su Mo said. No. If Su Mo could think of it, how could Zhou Donghuang not? I'll go to the black market tomorrow and use other methods to obtain spirit stones and the materials I need. As he said this, Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed. This time, if he could gather all the materials and forge the spirit weapon he needed, when he left the black market, as long as the golden essence adepts did not appear in the Ziyun planet, he would be invincible. The next day, Zhou Donghuang left the Yuntai Inn alone early in the morning. As for Su Mo, he did not bring him along, as there was no point in bringing him along. When they reached the black market, the two of them would still have to part ways. As soon as Zhou Donghuang left the inn, he attracted the attention of the old man who was standing guard near the entrance of the Yuntai Inn. This old man was the trusted subordinate of the elder of the black market and the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu. He was an early primal core disciple of the Divine Light sect. In the Divine Light sect, only when one entered the middle primal core stage could he become an elder and enjoy better treatment. Of course, there were also some talented disciples that the Divine Light sect focused on. Even if their level of practice was low and they had yet to mature, the Divine Light sect would still spend a lot of resources on them. Even the elders of the Divine Light sect would be jealous of the resources that the Divine Light sect spent on these talented disciples. The top figures in the Divine Light sect had basically all started out in their youth, and had been showered with resources like this. Just him alone? The old man frowned and said to one of the 2 men behind him, "You, go back and tell the 17th elder that only this young man has left the Yuntai Inn. In order to avoid alerting the middle-aged man, I do not intend to touch him for now." The latter responded and left. After Zhou Donghuang left the Yuntai Inn, he went directly to the black market and found an empty wooden hut to enter. Of course, at this time, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, also knew that Zhou Donghuang had come, but he could not be sure which one was Zhou Donghuang. Just that young man came alone? I want to see if he will make a big move like the middle-aged man who entered the black market half a year ago. Very quickly, Zhou Donghuang did not disappoint Lu Xuanyu. The formula for a qi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to qi by 20 times, the cost of refining 1 batch of herbs does not exceed 10 liang of gold. Is that true? As soon as a sign was hung in front of the wooden hut that Zhou Donghuang was in, a group of people quickly gathered outside. These people, completely covered in hooded black robes, whispered among themselves. So far, the best qi-gathering elixir on the market can only increase the sensitivity to qi by 12 times, right? Furthermore, it was only released half a year ago, and its price is very high. I heard that the cost of refining it is not small. That qi-gathering elixir that increases the sensitivity to qi by 12 times seems to have been perfected in the black market. I heard that the cost of refining 1 batch of it is more than 10 liang of gold. Under such circumstances, how can it be cheap? If there really is such a formula, 3,000 spirit stones is really not expensive. Indeed, it is not expensive. If one obtains the formula for this qi-gathering elixir, they can completely monopolize the high-end qi-gathering elixir market on the planet of Ziyun. Furthermore, if one of the top sects obtains it and does not sell it to the public, their disciples will be able to grow at a faster rate and widen the gap between them and the disciples of the other 4 top sections. Does not sell it to the public? That is not realistic. Once this kind of qi-gathering pill appears, the other 4 sects will definitely put pressure on the sect that obtained the pill formula to either share it with them or sell it to them. Inside the wooden hut, Zhou Donghuang sat in front of the wooden table, waiting patiently. On the other side of the wooden table, an employee of the black market, a disciple of the Divine Light sect who was at the Khanate stage, looked at the black-robed man in front of him, his eyes filled with uncertainty. He was doubtful that this black-robed man could produce such a formula. However, even though he was doubtful, since the other party had requested such a sign, he could only comply. If someone wanted to buy the formula and this person could not produce it, the person would be the one in trouble, and he would have nothing to do with it. It's Elder Tuaku. Outside the wooden house, a bald old man in a silver cassock walked in while being escorted by two middle-aged men. The group of black-robed people made way for him. At the same time, many of them recognized the old man in the lead. It was the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuaku. Tuaku was a late primal core adept of the Divine Light sect, a silver essence adept. That is the 15th elder of the Divine Light sect, Zhengyong, and that is the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu. My God! The person in charge of the black market and the other two managing elders are actually here personally. This is normal. After all, if the formula for the Qi-gathering core really exists, the practice speed of some of the Qi-gathering adepts on the planet of Ziyun will increase exponentially. They will spend less time in the Qi-gathering stage and enter the Khanate stage earlier, so they will have more time to break through to the primal core stage, and even the Dharma laws stage. As the group of black-robed men whispered among themselves, the three people led by the third elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuaku, had already entered the wooden hut. Third elder, 15th elder, 17th elder. As soon as the three of them entered, the black market worker in the wooden hut, a disciple of the Divine Light sect, hurriedly bowed respectfully to the three of them. You may leave. Tuaku looked at the young man, and as soon as he finished speaking, the young man had already left respectfully and closed the door of the wooden hut. Sir, do you really have the formula for the Qi-gathering core that can increase the sensitivity to Qi by 20 times? Tuaku sat down in front of the wooden table, opposite Zhou Donghuang. He looked at Zhou Donghuang and asked seriously. If I don't have it, why would I come to your black market? Zhou Donghuang asked calmly. This voice, almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang spoke, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, who was standing behind Tuaku, narrowed his eyes, and his heart trembled. What a young voice! It seems that he is most likely the young man who sold the formula for the Qi-gathering core to the middle-aged man of the Divine Light sect half a year ago. Sir, your voice is really young. Tuaku looked at Zhou Donghuang in surprise. It seems that you are here to help your elder sell the formula? Whatever you want to think of it. Zhou Donghuang said calmly. Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, a voice came from outside. Third elder, Alchemist Su is here. As Tuaku responded, an elderly figure pushed open the door and entered. At the same time, Tuaku stood up and led the two people behind him in greeting. Alchemist Su. Let me see the formula. The old man nodded at Tuaku and the other two and came to Zhou Donghuang, his eyes blazing. Just as Tuaku and the other two thought that the black-robed man would hesitate, they saw him quickly take out a piece of paper from his sleeve and hand it to the old man. He was the core refining master of the Divine Light sect, the top core refining master of the Ziyun planet, Su Fu. End of this chapter. Chapter 169. Su Fu had come from a planet rich in resources and had many primordial soul adepts, so he was very knowledgeable. But now, when he held the pill recipe in his hands and looked at it, his expression changed drastically. Occasionally, he would even exclaim in excitement, "Amazing! Wonderful! Wonderful! These herbs can actually be combined like this, the effect is even better this way. Amazing! Amazing!" After a while, Su Fu put down the elixir formula and reluctantly handed it back to the black-robed man behind the wooden table, Zhou Donghuang. Alchemist Su, what do you think? The person in charge of the black market and the third elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuaku, looked at Su Fu. Although it was a question, he already had an answer in his heart. After all, Su Fu's earlier loss of composure was enough to explain everything. The elixir formula is real, Su Fu said very seriously. However, even if I had the elixir formula, I would need at least another 10 days to half a month to have the confidence to produce the qi-gathering elixir according to the formula. As he said this, Su Fu's eyes lit up. Third elder, please buy the elixir formula. 3,000 spirit stones for the elixir formula. Later, the other 4 sects will definitely want us to share the elixir formula, and then we can collect 1,000 spirit stones from each sect. Of course, even if we do not share the elixir formula and only provide them with qi-gathering elixirs, we can still earn back the 3,000 spirit stones. Su Fu said solemnly, with this elixir formula, the talented qi-gathering adepts of the Divine Light sect can even reach the Khanate stage a few years earlier. Naturally, Tuo Ku did not doubt Su Fu's words. He looked at Zhou Donghuang and said, Sir, our black market is unable to produce 3,000 spirit stones at the moment. I need to send a message back to the sect and have them send the spirit stones over. I can't wait that long. As Zhou Donghuang spoke again, a piece of paper slipped out of his sleeve. It was immediately wrapped in a faint white fog and sent to Tuo Ku, floating in the air, waiting for him to reach out and take it. Primal Core Adept. Tuo Ku was shocked. From the voice of the black-robed man, he had thought that he was at most 20 years of age, but he had not expected that he was actually a Primal Core Adept. Although he was only an early Primal Core Adept, he was still shocked. Is he really a Primal Core Adept? Behind Tuo Ku, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, narrowed his eyes. Is he really the young man beside the middle-aged man? Lu Xuanyu had already confirmed the identity of the person in front of him. But now, with the appearance of the inner yuan of the person before him, revealing the fact that he was an early Primal Core Adept, he could not help but wonder, was the black-robed man before him really that young man? A youth who was not even 20 years old, a Primal Core Adept? He still couldn't believe it. However, when he recalled the fake news his subordinate sent back yesterday, his heart could not help but waver a little. The materials on the paper can replace spirit stones. I've already marked the price. I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, if you can't gather what I want, I'll sell this elixir formula to the other sections. Sir, 3 days is too short. Tuo Ku glanced at the materials recorded on the paper. It was not difficult to see that these materials, even on the planet of Ziyun, were considered rare materials. They could not be bought with gold or silver, and were usually traded with spirit stones. 2 days. Zhou Donghuang spoke again. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Tuo Ku's expression changed, and the 2 elders of the Divine Light sect behind him also glared at Zhou Donghuang. Young man, this is the black market, the territory of the Divine Light sect. If you want to leave the black market unscathed, you better not go overboard. Lu Xuanyu said in a low voice. Trying to scare me? Zhou Donghuang raised his head and glanced at Lu Xuanyu. With a wave of his hand, the inner yuan in his hand crushed the qi-gathering elixir formula into pieces, making it impossible to put it back together. 1 day, if I do not gather what I want in 1 day, this elixir formula will not be fated with the Divine Light sect. Other than that, he will now give me 100 spirit stones as compensation for scaring me just now. Zhou Donghuang looked at Tuo Ku and pointed at Lu Xuanyu. Young man, you're asking for it. Lu Xuanyu's expression changed. He had never imagined that the person in front of him would dare to extort him. Zhou Donghuang ignored Lu Xuanyu and continued to look at Tuo Ku. 17th elder, give him 100 spirit stones first, the black market will cover half of it for you, and I'll get the treasury to give you 50 spirit stones later. Tuo Ku, the 3rd elder of the Divine Light sect, could not fathom the strength of the black-robed man before him. But he knew that the Divine Light sect had to obtain the elixir formula, so he could only choose to compromise for now and satisfy the black-robed man's demands, lest he take another step further. When Tuo Ku spoke, his tone was commanding. No matter how unwilling Lu Xuanyu was, he could only obediently take out 100 spirit stones from his space ring and hand them over to Zhou Donghuang. But when he looked at Zhou Donghuang, his eyes were filled with an icy murderous intent. Even if he only had to pay 50 spirit stones, it was still a large sum. Although the Divine Light sect would give him spirit stones every month, it would still take more than a year for him to accumulate 50 spirit stones. "Sir, we will do our best to prepare what you need, please wait here for the next day." Now, Tuoku did not dare to bargain. Zhou Donghuang's tone was indifferent as Tuoku led his men out of the wooden house. Under the watchful eyes of the black-robed men outside the wooden house, Tuoku led his men back to his room in the black market. "Third elder, that kid is too much," Lu Xuanyu said as soon as they entered the room. "In my opinion, we should just kill him and take his elixir formula. Even if the news gets out, the Divine Light sect will have to pay 4,000 spirit stones as punishment for breaking the rules of the black market. That will be worth it to the 4 sections. Furthermore, as long as we agree to share the elixir formula with them, or sell the finished elixir to them, the Divine Light sect will not have to pay those 4,000 spirit stones." As he said this, Lu Xuanyu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The elixir formula has already been destroyed by him. Tuoku shook his head. Lu Xuanyu was taken aback, but his eyes were fierce as he said, "Then we will torture him and force him to write out the elixir formula again." Looking at his posture, it is obvious that he has memorized the contents of the elixir formula and can write it out at any time. Otherwise, he would not have destroyed the elixir formula and acted as if he wanted to make a deal with the Divine Light sect. Torture him? Force him? Tuoku continued to shake his head. "If he cannot bear the torture and wants to commit suicide, we will not be able to stop him. In that case, the Divine Light sect will completely lose the opportunity to obtain the elixir formula. Your suggestion is not realistic." As he said this, Tuoku looked at Su Fu and asked respectfully, "Alchemist Su, just now when you looked at the elixir formula, how much do you remember? Is it possible for you to completely replicate it?" Su Fu shook his head. "I only looked at it once. I can only remember 10 to 20% of the elixir formula. The elixir formula is very complicated, and even if I look at it 100 times, I can only remember half of it. Unless I have a photographic memory, I can forcibly remember it. In that case, we will follow his request and help him prepare the materials." As the third elder of the Divine Light sect and the person in charge of the black market in the capital of the Xinguang Empire, Tuoku gave the order, and all the elders and disciples who were not on duty in the black market were sent out to various large families in the capital of the Xinguang Empire, and even some small sects outside the capital, to see if these families and sects had the rare materials that the black-robed young man wanted. It had to be said that the black market was very efficient. In less than a day and a night, the next morning, they had gathered most of the rare materials that Zhou Donghuang needed. The rest of the materials that had not been gathered could only be paid in spirit stones. "Sir, the things you wanted have arrived, the elixir formula. Is it time to give it to me?" Inside the wooden hut, Tuoku looked at the black-robed man in front of him as he spoke. Now, on the wooden table in the wooden house, in addition to a half-opened wooden box containing 1,000 spirit stones, there were also all kinds of metal ores and materials. At first glance, one could tell that they were not simple. They were not ordinary metal ores and materials at all. That's right. Zhou Donghuang's gaze swept over the materials and spirit stones on the table, and he nodded. He then looked at Tuoku and said, "Come back in a day to collect the elixir formula. I have already destroyed the previous elixir formula, and I need to write it out again. In the wooden hut, do not leave anyone to disturb me, or you will bear the consequences." "All right." Tuoku responded and led his men out. However, although they had left, Tuoku did not leave the vicinity of the wooden hut. He even had a few elders of the Divine Light sect from the black market come and stand with him in different directions around the wooden hut, staring at it like a tiger watching its prey, as if deeply afraid that the person inside would escape. Now, even a middle primal core adept would not be able to escape, much less an early primal core adept. Lu Xuanyu stood in a corner of the wooden hut, staring at it with a murderous look in his eyes. Inside the wooden hut, writing the elixir formula from memory naturally did not take a day. The reason why Zhou Donghuang had asked Tuoku to collect the elixir formula in a day was that he planned to use the materials that Tuoku had brought to make the spirit weapon that he wanted now. The list of materials that I gave Tuoku is a list of the materials needed to make an ultimate spirit weapon, although he did not gather all the materials. However, these materials are enough for me to create a superior spirit weapon. Primal Core spirit weapons were spirit weapons used by Primal Core adepts. Inferior spirit weapons, when infused with inner yuan, could only increase the power by 10%. Middle-grade spirit weapons could increase the power by 30%. Superior spirit weapons could increase the power by 60%. A supreme-grade spirit weapon could double one's power. Chapter 170. Third Elder, you are right. A day later, in the wooden hut, Su Fu nodded at Tuoku after reading the formula in his hand. As soon as Su Fu finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang stood up and walked out of the wooden hut without looking back. From the beginning to the end, Tuoku, the third elder of the Divine Light sect and a late Primal Core adept, had no intention of stopping Zhou Donghuang and allowed him to leave. However, after Zhou Donghuang left, Tuoku could not help but look at Su Fu and ask, "Alchemist Su, what you said before, is it true? This formula, even a planet with a divine transformation adept might not have it?" Earlier, Tuoku had heard Su Fu say that the formula for the Qi-gathering elixir that the black-robed man had given to him could not be found even on a planet with a divine transformation adept. The divine transformation stage was above the primordial soul stage and was 2 whole levels higher than the Dharma stage. Because of this, he was even more wary of the black-robed man. For him to be able to give such a formula, what did it mean? This meant that the other party had either encountered a great opportunity or had become the disciple of a powerful cultivator from another planet. However, his master had left him in the Ziyun planet to cultivate. In the boundless universe, there was no lack of cases of these two. If it was the former, he could definitely kill him and take back everything that he had taken from the Divine Light sect. However, if it was the latter, once his master found out, the Divine Light sect could be doomed. After all, the fact that the black-robed man had sold the formula for the Qi-gathering elixir in the black market was no secret, and it would not be difficult for his master to trace it back to the Divine Light sect. He did not dare to take the risk. The Divine Light sect could not take the risk for 1,000 spirit stones and materials. Third Elder, are you doubting my words? Su Fu's expression darkened slightly. Alchemist Su, please do not misunderstand, I just want to confirm. Tuoku smiled awkwardly and apologized profusely. Although Su Fu's level of practice was not as high as his alchemy skills were the best in the entire Ziyun planet, and he was the most respected in the Divine Light sect. His position in the sect was even higher than his own. After leaving the black market, Zhou Donghuang prepared to return to the Yuntai Inn. Just like when he had come, he did not fly. Instead, he walked slowly through the streets and alleys of the capital of the Xinguang Empire, enjoying the noise around him. He had been in seclusion for half a year and hadn't stepped out of his room. When he heard the noise, not only did he not feel disgusted, he even felt a sense of familiarity. However, when he walked into a small alley with only a few stalls and a dozen passers-by, he seemed to have noticed something and suddenly stopped in his tracks. Just as Zhou Donghuang paused in his tracks, a voice rang out. Whoosh! 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 Accompanied by a series of ear-piercing sounds, less than 20 people, including passers-by and stall owners, were penetrated by more than 10 white streams of light in the blink of an eye. They directly fell to the ground and died. These people didn't even have the chance to react before they fell to the ground and died. When the dozen or so people died, they still had the same expression as before. Those who were looking left and right still had curious expressions on their faces. Those who were bargaining with the stall owner were still frowning. There were also 2 children who were not even 10 years old who still had innocent smiles on their faces. All this happened in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Just as Zhou Donghuang frowned slightly and raised his head to look in the direction of the white streams of light, a figure descended from the air. He is Lu Xuanyu. Zhou Donghuang was no stranger to the person in front of him. It was the person whom he had asked for 100 spirit stones as compensation for his mental distress. At that time, he only knew that this person had a high status in the black market, but did not know his identity. Now, seeing him appear before him, it was not difficult for him to guess his identity. The 17th elder of the Shengguang sect, Lu Xuanyu. 2 days ago, Su Mo had killed one of the people who had been following them, sent by Lu Xuanyu. It was also at that time that he knew that he had been targeted by Lu Xuanyu. "Kid, you didn't think that I would be able to find you, did you?" After Lu Xuanyu landed slowly, he looked at Zhou Donghuang with a cold smile. "So what if you found me?" Zhou Donghuang asked calmly. "So it is you." Hearing Zhou Donghuang's voice and words, Lu Xuanyu was completely sure that the black-robed man who had extorted 100 spirit stones from him was this young man in white before him. Although he still did not dare to believe that this young man was a primal core adept, he still did not dare to believe it. But at this moment, even if he did not dare to believe it, he had to believe it. "Kid, no matter what kind of fortuitous encounter you have, or whether you have a powerful teacher behind you, today, you will die without a doubt." Lu Xuanyu looked at Zhou Donghuang with a murderous look and an unconcealable greed. 1,000 spirit stones. And rare materials that were worth no less than 2,000 spirit stones. As long as he killed this person in front of him, everything that he had exchanged for in the black market would belong to him, Lu Xuanyu. Furthermore, he could take back the 100 spirit stones that he had given to this person 2 days ago. "You killed them to silence them so that they would not spread the news of you attacking me?" Zhou Donghuang glanced at the dozen corpses in the alley and asked coldly. "That's right. As long as no one witnesses me killing you, even if you have a powerful teacher behind you, no one will be able to trace it back to me." As Lu Xuanyu finished speaking, the milky white inner yuan around his body pulsed and revolved around his body, lifting him into the air and heading straight for Zhou Donghuang. "Kid, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being so weak despite having so many treasures on you." As Lu Xuanyu finished speaking, he was already near Zhou Donghuang, and with a raise of his hand, the blade in his palm whistled through the air. Buzz! The piercing sound of the blade rang out, and a solid white ray of the blade sliced through the air towards Zhou Donghuang. "Even if you die today, no one will know that I killed you, although, I am not worried that anyone will know that I killed you," said Zhou Donghuang calmly. With a flick of his right sleeve, a fan appeared in his hand. "Originally, I did not need to use this to kill you, but it was just refined last night and has not been sharpened yet, so I will let it drink your blood to sharpen it." As Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, the fan in his hand suddenly opened, and the black, sharp ribs of the fan glowed with a cold light that could be seen with the naked eye. A moment later, a faint white light rose from the fan. Whoosh! In a flash, Zhou Donghuang's entire body moved like a ghost, and the fan in his hand met the solid ray of light that Lu Xuanyu had sent out. Whoosh! The fan flew through the air and met Lu Xuanyu's solid ray of light, slicing through it like tofu, and then shattering it. Spirit weapon? Earlier, when he heard Zhou Donghuang's words, Lu Xuanyu had already suspected that the fan in front of him was a spirit weapon. Now, seeing that his opponent had so easily destroyed his attack with the fan, he was completely certain. It is indeed a spirit weapon. Immediately, the greed in Lu Xuanyu's eyes intensified. A spirit weapon. Even in the Divine Light sect, they only had one. Although Zhou Donghuang had easily destroyed Lu Xuanyu's attack, Lu Xuanyu did not think that there was anything special about Zhou Donghuang's spirit weapon. He only thought that Zhou Donghuang had used all his inner yuan to neutralize his attack. His attack was a condensed blade of inner yuan that had left his body, and it did not have any power behind it. It was not strange that an early primal core adept could neutralize it with the full power of an inferior primal core spirit weapon. Kid, before you die, let me thank you for giving me this spirit weapon. Lu Xuanyu's eyes flashed with greed, and then the milky white light surrounding him trembled, and like a cannonball, it flew towards Zhou Donghuang at lightning speed. At the same time, as Lu Xuanyu's hands danced, 2 rays of light condensed from inner yuan appeared above his hands, but they did not leave his body. Now, Lu Xuanyu planned to use all his strength to kill the young man before him to prevent any unexpected events. Dream on. Facing the menacing Lu Xuanyu, how could Zhou Donghuang not know what he was thinking? He laughed disdainfully as the fan in his hand spun in his palm, and the sharp white light flashed around him. Wang! 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 The fan in Zhou Donghuang's hand was like a fan that had left its machine. With a shake of his hand, it flew out of his hand and towards Lu Xuanyu, bringing with it a piercing sound. Spirit weapon. Seeing the fan spinning towards him, Lu Xuanyu's eyes lit up, and then the white light in his hands transformed into 2 large white hands that grabbed at the fan. Obviously, Lu Xuanyu wanted to snatch Zhou Donghuang's spirit weapon. However, in the next moment, as the fan came closer, Lu Xuanyu's expression changed completely when he sensed the strong and condensed inner yuan on the fan. Impossible. At this moment, the power of the true yuan emitted by the nearby folding fan was even stronger than his own true yuan. This did not mean that the inner yuan on the fan was of a higher quality than his, but when the quantity was added together, it was as if the inner yuan of several early primal core adepts had been perfectly combined, displaying a strength that was enough to crush his own inner yuan. Winning by quantity. No, Lu Xuanyu hastily let out a cry of indignation. Then, he exerted all his strength. His hands pulsed with true essence in an attempt to block the incoming fan. Now, in his eyes, the fan was no longer a treasure, but a scythe that had come to claim his life. The greed in Lu Xuanyu's eyes completely disappeared. In its place was fear from the bottom of his heart. Poof! A soft sound echoed in the small alley. Lu Xuanyu's heart-wrenching cry of indignation came to an abrupt end. The folding fan rotated like a fan, destroying the true essence in Lu Xuanyu's hand as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, directly killing Lu Xuanyu. Chapter 171. Clap. The spinning folding fan returned to Zhou Donghuang's hand after it had completed its mission, bringing with it a splatter of fresh blood. A young man dressed in robes whiter than snow, holding a folded fan in his hand, and with his handsome features and extraordinary aura, he looked like an elegant scholar. From the moment Lu Xuanyu appeared to the moment he was killed by Zhou Donghuang, only a few breaths had passed. During this time, no one had entered the alley. Only after Zhou Donghuang had taken Lu Xuanyu's space ring and left for a while did someone enter the alley and discover Lu Xuanyu's death. Lu Xuanyu was a mid-primal core adept, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect. His death naturally caused quite a stir. How did the 17th elder die in that alley? In the black market, the 3rd elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuoku, had an ugly expression on his face. Today, he had helped the Divine Light sect by the formula for a qi-gathering elixir that could increase the sensitivity to qi by 20 times. He had not expected that just as alchemist Su had brought the formula back to the sect, the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, would die in a small alley in the capital city. Investigate. Investigate thoroughly. As the 3rd elder of the Divine Light sect and the person in charge of the black market, it was not difficult for Tuoku to find out from some of the disciples that Lu Xuanyu's trusted subordinates had been investigating the new faces who had entered the black market since half a year ago. What happened? Tuoku's face was gloomy as he looked at the old man who was bowing and shivering. His voice was low as he said, "Don't tell me you don't know." 3rd elder. Now that Lu Xuanyu was dead, the old man did not dare hide anything from the third elder of the Divine Light sect. He hurriedly told him everything that had happened. Half a year ago, the person who sold us the formula for the chi-gathering elixir at the price of 1,000 spirit stones was a middle-aged man. Beside him was a young man. That young man, the Yang family said he was an early primal core adept. After hearing all this, Tuo Ku's mind flashed. It was not difficult to connect this young man with the black-robed man who had sold them the formula for the chi-gathering elixir. The black-robed man had a very young voice, and was also an early primal core adept. Summon the patriarch of the Yang clan, Yang Qi. Following Ta Ku's orders to the old man, it didn't take long for the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Qi, to be led by the old man to the black market. Yang Qi of the Yang family greets third elder. Yang Qi respectfully saluted Ta Ku. He should have told you everything. The young man who went to your Yang family that day, are you sure he was an early primal core adept? Tuo Ku looked at Yang Qi sternly, getting straight to the point. Yes. Yang Qi nodded hurriedly. At that time, he used his inner yuan to hold a piece of paper in front of me. The inner yuan surrounding the paper was as faint as mist. It was the inner yuan of an early primal core adept. You should know the consequences of lying to me. Tuo Ku's voice suddenly turned cold. Thump. Yang Qi was so frightened that he dropped to his knees. How could I possibly dare to deceive you, third elder? I, Yang Qi, swear to the heavens that if I lied to you, third elder, then I'll die a horrible death. I'll give you one last chance. Tuo Ku said calmly. If you dare lie to me, from now on, the Yang family will no longer exist in the Xinguang Empire, or even the entire planet of Ziyun. Third elder, I really didn't lie to you. Yang Qi saw that Tuo Ku was using his family to threaten him. He was speechless and helpless, and his face was filled with a bitter smile. Tuo Ku finally believed Yang Qi's words. That middle-aged man was also an early primal core adept. Yes. Yang Qi nodded. After they came to our Yang family, the middle-aged man made the first move and killed my son. I don't know who it was, but they kept spreading false news that the middle-aged man was only a late Khanate adept, and they harmed my son and the Yang family. As he spoke, Yang Qi's tone was filled with resentment. Of course, he did not hate the primal core adept who killed his son, because he knew that resentment was useless. What he hated was the person who had spread the false news. What else was so special about the two of them? For example, did they say where they came from? Tuo Ku had always felt that the person who could produce the two formulas for the chi-gathering core either had a powerful background, or was just lucky enough to have had a fortuitous encounter. Yang Qi thought for a moment. They did not say where they came from, but the middle-aged man, although he was also an early primal core adept like the young man, called the young man master. Also, when he called the young man master, he was very natural and willing, without the slightest bit of hesitation or awkwardness, and from the bottom of his heart, he acknowledged the young man as his master. Yang Qi told him everything he knew in one breath. The middle-aged man called the young man master. Tuo Ku's eyes narrowed slightly. If that was the case, the young man was more likely to have a powerful background. After all, if he did not have a powerful background, how could he have someone of the same level of practice as him willingly acknowledge him as his master? There must have been some powerful force behind the young man, or perhaps a powerful teacher who had intimidated the middle-aged man into willingly acknowledging the young man as his master. You may leave. After dismissing Yang Qi, Tuo Ku's eyes flashed with wisdom. So, the person in the black robe who sold us the chi-gathering core formula today must be that young man. Lu Xuanyu must have noticed this. So, after the young man left the black market, he went to kill the young man, wanting to take what the young man had obtained from the black market today, as well as the 100 spirit stones he had extorted from him. However, Lu Xuanyu was a mid-primal core adept. Whether it was the young man or the middle-aged man beside him, they were both early primal core adepts, and even if they joined forces, they would not have been a match for Lu Xuanyu. So, there is only one possibility: the young man had a primal core adept protecting him, and when he saw Lu Xuanyu attack the young man, he killed Lu Xuanyu. Thinking of this, Tuo Ku's eyes flashed with wisdom. Look at Lu Xuanyu's body, there are no signs of a fight, he was killed in one blow. That means, the person who killed Lu Xuanyu was at least a late primal core adept like me. Tuo Ku thought to himself. As he took a deep breath, Tuo Ku's eyes flashed with fear. This matter, I can't solve it, and I have no way of solving it. I'd better send the news back to the sect, and see what the sect decides. Naturally, Zhou Donghuang was not a late primal core adept. However, he had indeed killed Lu Xuanyu in one blow. In fact, he had killed him with brute force and a spirit weapon without using any techniques or the rich experience of life and death battles from his past life. The inner yuan of a mid-primal core adept was about twice as strong as that of an early primal core adept. Although Zhou Donghuang was only an early primal core adept, he had two primal cores in his body, and because both primal cores were his, the inner yuan in both primal cores could be perfectly combined to fight against an enemy. Under such circumstances, the power of his inner yuan was twice as strong as that of an ordinary early primal core adept. Coupled with the 60% increase in power from the superior grade spirit weapon he had just forged the night before, just based on the explosive power of his inner yuan, he could easily crush Lu Xuanyu, who was a mid-primal core adept. Furthermore, Lu Xuanyu was made of flesh and blood, and he did not know how powerful Zhou Donghuang's superior spirit weapon was, so Lu Xuanyu was killed in one blow. If Lu Xuanyu had been more careful, he might have lived a little longer. His carelessness had caused him to be killed by Zhou Donghuang in one blow. With my rich battle experience from my past life and my skills in using inner yuan, I could have easily killed Lu Xuanyu without using a spirit weapon. The mid-primal core adepts of Ziyun can only be considered half-baked, and they cannot be compared to the mid-primal core adepts of the supreme sects and great galactic clans of the universe. In the courtyard of a guest room in the Yuntai Inn, Zhou Donghuang sat before a stone table and opened his folding fan. He seemed to be admiring the dense patterns on the fan, but he was actually thinking about something else. The supreme sects and great galactic clans were basically all-powerful forces that stood at the peak of the universe. They had their own way of nurturing their disciples. Not only did they improve the level of practice of their disciples, but they also helped them improve their battle experience and techniques. Even if the disciples of the supreme sects and great galactic clans were only at the level of a mid-primal core adept, they could easily kill a late primal core adept of Ziyun. Even if the latter's inner yuan was more than twice as strong as the former's inner yuan. Even if the inner yuan was strong, it could only be used to its fullest potential. Just like today, when the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, attacked Zhou Donghuang, his inner yuan seemed to be condensed, but it was actually full of flaws. If Zhou Donghuang really wanted to fight, even without using a spirit weapon, he could easily take his life. I was thinking, if I could produce an ultimate primal core spirit weapon this time, even with my current level of practice, as long as there are no golden essence adepts on the planet of Ziyun, I would be able to dominate the world. But, plans can't keep up with changes. I don't have the materials, and I can only produce this superior primal core spirit weapon. Zhou Donghuang sighed. The most important thing now is to condense the third primal core. When that time comes, even if I only have a superior primal core spirit weapon, I will be able to dominate all the adepts of Ziyun below the golden essence stage. As for now, against a silver essence adept, such as the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuo Ku, even if I can fight him to a draw at the start, as time goes on, my inner yuan will definitely not be able to keep up with his. At this thought, Zhou Donghuang felt the pressure. He stood up and returned to his room. Zhou Donghuang once again shut himself away to practice. Chapter 172. The Divine Light sect was one of the 5 great sects of the Xian planet. It was located in the mountains to the north of the Xinguang Empire, and the highest peak was where the sect was based. After the founder of the Divine Light sect had established the sect here, he had named the peak Xinguang Peak. The sect leader has ordered us to investigate the origins of the young man and the middle-aged man. These are their portraits. Each of you take a copy, and with the Xinguang Empire as the center, conduct a carpet search for their origins. On a wide stone platform halfway up Xinguang Peak, an old monk of medium build, dressed in a silver cassock, spoke to the 11 people before him in a low voice. Now, the 11 people before the old monk were either middle-aged monks in red cassock or middle-aged men in casual clothes. In the Divine Light sect, besides the Buddhist disciples, there were also many secular disciples. Now, the 11 of them were each standing on a huge flying beast. The leader was a middle-aged man dressed in a black robe. He was tall and burly, with a hideous knife scar on his face. Although the giant eagle beneath his feet was about the same size as the other eagles, there was a faint white fog surrounding it, as if to tell the others that it was a primal core demon. The other 11 flying beasts now maintained a certain distance from the giant eagle, their huge bodies stiff, as if they did not dare to move. As for how to divide the area of the investigation, you can arrange it yourself, 10th Elder. The old monk looked at the middle-aged man in black as he spoke. All right. The black-robed man nodded. Let's go. After bidding farewell to the old monk, the black-robed man rode on the giant eagle beneath his feet and flew away, leaving Xinguang Peak in the blink of an eye. The giant eagle beneath his feet was 20 meters wide when it spread its wings. This size was the mark of an ultimate connate stage eagle-type beast. However, this giant eagle was not an ultimate connate stage beast, but a primal core demon. For most beasts, once they entered the ultimate connate stage, their size would be fixed and would not change. Even if they entered the primal core, dharma, primordial soul, or divine transformation, there would not be any changes. Whoosh! 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 After the black-robed man, the other 10 Buddhist and secular disciples of the Divine Light sect also rode on their flying beasts to catch up with the black-robed man. The flying beasts beneath the feet of the Divine Light sect disciples were also huge in size. There were a few eagle-type demonic beasts with a wingspan of 20 meters. Clearly, they were innate realm demonic beasts. You, head northwest and investigate the origins of those 2 people. If you find nothing in the northwest region of the Xinguang Empire, continue northwest and search for other empires. I'll leave the west to you. You, go southwest. As the middle-aged man in the black robe and the 10 elders of the Divine Light sect gave their orders, one by one, they rode their flying beasts and left at top speed. Finally, the middle-aged man in the black robe rode his primal core beast in the southeast direction. The reason why he chose the southeast direction was that it was extremely far away from the border of another empire. He would need to cross a very long distance. It was best for him to travel this part of the journey himself. I don't even know who this middle-aged man and this young man are. They've only just entered the world, and they've already alerted the Divine Light sect. Even the sect leader has personally ordered a thorough investigation of their origins. The middle-aged man in the black robe raised his hand, and 2 portraits appeared out of thin air. One of the portraits was of an elegant middle-aged man, looking very lifelike. The other portrait was of a young man. The young man was handsome and had a transcendent aura, as if he had transcended the world. The 2 portraits depicted Zhou Donghuang and his servant. Ever since I joined the Eagle Eye, it seems like this is the first time the Eagle Eye has come out in full force like today. The middle-aged man in the black robe muttered to himself as he kept the portraits. The Eagle Eye was the intelligence department of the Divine Light sect, and it was managed and overseen by the late Primal Core Adept, the 5th Elder of the Divine Light sect. The second person in charge was the middle-aged man in the black robe, who was the 10th Elder of the Divine Light sect. The middle-aged man in the black robe was also the next most promising adept of the Divine Light sect to enter the late Primal Core stage. He was the number 1 mid-Primal Core adept in the Divine Light sect. Big brother, this is actually quite good, we can take the opportunity to come out and relax. The slightly immature voice of a young man came from the mouth of the giant eagle beneath the middle-aged man in the black robe. The Primal Core beasts had already refined their laryngeal bones and could speak. That's true. The middle-aged man in the black robe smiled faintly. However, I hope that this trip will be fruitful. I am also very curious about the background of that young man. A Primal Core adept who is not even 20 years old, is that possible? I still feel that this news is not very trustworthy. The giant eagle's tone was full of doubt. The news was sent back to the sect by the third elder, so it should not be false. I just don't know if that young man had some special encounter, or if he has a powerful teacher behind him. The tone of the middle-aged man in the black robe was full of curiosity. As a Primal Core beast, the giant eagle was extremely fast. However, because it needed to descend all the way to cooperate with the middle-aged man in the black robe in finding out the background of the target, it still took about half a month before it arrived at the southeastern border of the Xinguang Empire. Whoosh! After leaving the southeastern border of the Xinguang Empire, the giant eagle continued in the southeast direction. After 7 or 8 days, there was no sign of human habitation. Big brother, isn't this place too remote? It's practically a barren land. The giant eagle could not help but complain to the middle-aged man in the black robe as it overlooked the wilderness beneath it. This area is indeed barren. However, it is said that behind this desolate land, there are quite a few people, and there is even a small sect. The middle-aged man in the black robe said with a laugh. How small is a small sect? The giant eagle asked curiously. Within the sect, the strongest person is at most an ultimate Khanate adept. The middle-aged man said. Ultimate Khanate adept? The strongest? The giant eagle's sharp eyes flashed with disdain. It is indeed quite small. In the various empires, there are not many Primal Core adepts, and they are even too embarrassed to establish a sect, and in this small place, there is not even one Primal Core adept, and yet they dare to establish a sect. What a joke! The more the giant eagle spoke, the more disdainful it became. 3 days later. In the sky above a vast valley, 2 uninvited guests, 1 man and 1 eagle. If I'm not wrong, this should be that small sect. I have seen records of this small sect in our Eagle Eye's notes. I think it is called Valley of the Medicine Masters. On the back of the giant eagle with a wingspan of over 20 meters, a middle-aged man in a black robe stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking down at the vast valley below him. There are sentries at the highest points around the valley. The giant eagle's sharp eyes flashed. It was not difficult to see the rather inconspicuous lookout towers around the valley. Furthermore, there were people on the lookout towers monitoring the surroundings. Go down. As the middle-aged man in the black robe spoke, the giant eagle swooped down and landed near one of the lookout towers. On that lookout tower, the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters looked at the man and eagle who seemed to appear out of thin air. Especially when he saw the huge size of the giant eagle, his expression changed. An ultimate Khanate adept demon? The giant eagle's wingspan was over 20 meters, a sign of an ultimate Khanate adept demon. An ultimate Khanate adept demon? Hearing the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters exclaim in shock, the giant eagle was a little unhappy and said directly to the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Hey! Old man, I am not a little Khanate adept demon. If you dare speak nonsense again, I will tear you apart. As soon as he said this, a cold light flashed in the giant eagle's eyes. Speak human language. The elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, whose expression was already very ugly, heard the giant eagle's words and his eyes narrowed. He was so frightened that his legs gave way and he fell to the ground. You are a primal core demon. Although there had never been a primal core adept or a primal core demon in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. However, this did not prevent the people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters from knowing that after demons entered the primal core stage, they could refine the laryngeal bone and speak human language. Speaking human language was a sign of a primal core demon and above. At least you are knowledgeable. The look in the giant eagle's eyes softened. Whoosh! At the same time, the middle-aged man in the black robe on the back of the giant eagle flashed, his body surrounded by a milky white halo, and he flew directly into the air and slowly landed in front of the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Primal core adept? The elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground, narrowed his eyes again. His shocked heart was at this moment even somewhat numb. First was a primal core demon. Then a primal core adept. As far as he knew, in the history of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there had never been anyone who had received such treatment. I am the 10th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lin Hantian. The middle-aged man in the black robe was the 10th elder of the Divine Light sect, the second in charge of the intelligence department of the Divine Light sect, Eagle Eye. As he spoke, he neatly displayed two portraits in front of the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Do you recognize these two people? The Divine Light sect? The elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was puzzled, because he had never heard of the Divine Light sect. However, as a primal core adept, he was the 10th elder of the Divine Light sect, and it was not difficult for him to guess that the Divine Light sect was not an existence that the Valley of the Medicine Masters could compare to. Now, the other party displayed the two portraits in front of him, and asked if he recognized the two people in the portraits. He subconsciously looked over. With just one glance, his expression could not help but freeze. This was because he knew the two people in the portraits. One of them was the leader of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Su Mo. The other person, although the childish look on his face had faded, he still recognized him at a glance. It was the master that Su Mo, the leader of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, recognized. Zhou Donghuang. A person from the country of Yunyang, one of the 16 countries of the East Valley, and a former Khanate stage youth. Sir, I wonder, why are you looking for these two people? The elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters asked cautiously. After all, he did not know whether the other party was a friend or a foe. If they were enemies, and he exposed the identity of their valley head, it would be harming their valley head. Chapter 173. I asked you if you knew him. The face of the 10th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lin Hantian, suddenly darkened. The inner yuan of a mid-primordial soul adept swept out and pressed down on the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, causing the early Khanate stage elder's expression to change as he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this time, the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters also realized that the man in front of him was not friendly, and hurriedly shook his head. I don't know him. I'll give you another chance. Are you sure you don't know them? Lin Hantian grinned, revealing 2 rows of yellow and white teeth as he asked again. I don't know them. The elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters continued to shake his head. I've given you a chance. As Lin Hantian spoke calmly, the inner yuan in his hands pressed down on the elder's head. The raging inner yuan was like a meat grinder, and in an instant, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Your eyes can't fool me. Just now, Lin Hantian had seen the look of surprise in the elder's eyes and could tell that he most likely knew the person in the portrait he had taken out. He had asked him again just to be sure. It seems that they came from this barren land. No wonder the 3rd elder said that the 17th elder, Lu Xuanyu, had sent someone to investigate and confirm that the 2 men were not from the Xinguang Empire, and that the other 4 empires could not find anything about their origins. After killing the elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Lin Hantian returned to the back of the giant eagle. Since they came from here, it is normal that Lu Xuanyu could not find anything about their origins. This place is too remote. After Lin Hantian returned to the eagle's back, he steered the giant eagle into the valley. His rash actions naturally alerted the other 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters who were on the lookout post. However, when the 3 of them saw the giant eagle with a wingspan of more than 20 meters beneath Lin Hantian's feet, their expressions changed completely. An ultimate Khanate stage demon? No, look at the pale white halo around the giant eagle, that is clearly the sign of a primal core demon. An early primal core demon? After confirming that the giant eagle in front of them was an early primal core demon, the faces of the 3 elders changed again, and their eyes were filled with horror. How could a primal core demon appear in the Valley of the Medicine Masters? Furthermore, there was a middle-aged man riding a primal core demon. Needless to say, they were certain this middle-aged man who had appeared riding a primal core demon was most likely also a primal core adept, and it was very likely that he was even more powerful than the primal core demon beneath his feet. Just now, I asked the person over there a question. He wasn't honest, so I killed him. Lin Hantian stood on the back of the giant eagle, looking at the 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters sitting on the backs of the flying beasts, who were all agitated by the giant eagle beneath Lin Hantian's feet. The 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters looked in the direction of the lookout post that Lin Hantian had pointed to, and their expressions changed. Just now, they were still wondering why the person on duty at the lookout post did not come with them. It turned out that he had been killed by the person in front of them. I only hope that you won't disappoint me. As Lin Hantian spoke, he raised his hand and the 2 portraits were wrapped in a milky white light and flew out to reveal themselves in the void. 2 portraits were displayed before the 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters at the same time. And this move by Lin Hantian also made the 3 of them realize a problem. The middle-aged man in the black robe before them was not only a primal core adept, but also a mid-primal core adept. The concentrated milky white inner yuan was the hallmark of a mid-primal core adept who had already condensed the primal core into a solid one. Valley head? One of the elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, in a moment of surprise, saw one of the portraits, and subconsciously let out a cry of surprise. And at the same time that he let out this cry, his eyes also showed a hint of remorse. The person in front of him obviously did not come with good intentions, and looking for their Valley head was certainly not a good thing. Valley head? Lin Hantian's eyes lit up. That middle-aged man, is your Valley head? I really didn't expect that in a small sect like yours with such barren mountains and unruly rivers, there would be an early primal core adept. He should be the first primal core adept in the history of the Valley of the Medicine Masters? As Lin Hantian asked this question, his eyes narrowed slightly. Primal core adept? The 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters were stunned. The person in front of them said that their Valley head was a primal core adept? Sir, you must be mistaken. Our Valley head is not a primal core adept, but only a late Khanate stage adept. One of the elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters said. Yes. Sir, there must be a resemblance between the 2, you must be mistaken. Yes. The other person, we don't know. Perhaps, sir, you are mistaken, our Valley head is really just a Khanate stage adept, and has not even reached the ultimate Khanate stage, so it is impossible for him to be a primal core adept. The other 2 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters also chimed in. Although they could be 100% certain that the person in the portrait was the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Even if there was a resemblance between the 2, how could the young man in the other portrait be explained? That handsome young man with an extraordinary aura was obviously the young Khanate stage adept of the past, and at the same time, the master of their Valley head. Now, realizing that the person in front of them did not come with good intentions, the 3 of them tried their best to salvage the situation, and not let the person in front of them know that the middle-aged man in the portrait was their Valley head. Hearing the words of the 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Lin Hantian frowned. Could it really be that there was a resemblance between the 2? However, In order to confirm, Lin Hantian personally stopped a disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and asked him if he knew the person in the portrait. To be on the safe side, he did not bring the 3 elders of the valley with him. The 3 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters were in the air, stepping on the trembling flying beasts, their eyes flashing with imperceptible anxiety. Now, they only hoped that the disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters would not betray them. It was a coincidence. The person that Lin Hantian stopped was not just anyone, but the disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters whom Zhou Donghuang had met not long after he had arrived at the Valley of the Medicine Masters and left the cave abode for the training grounds, Huang Mingfeng. At that time, Huang Mingfeng had acted as if he was very familiar with Zhou Donghuang, and had even personally brought Zhou Donghuang to the training grounds. "Young man, do you recognize the 2 people in this portrait?" Lin Hantian descended from the sky and appeared in front of Huang Mingfeng. Naturally, Huang Mingfeng's expression changed. Fly, you are a primal core adept. Tell me the truth, or I will take your life. Lin Hantian's voice was cold, giving one the feeling of falling into an icehouse, and Huang Mingfeng was so frightened that his body involuntarily stiffened. At this time, Huang Mingfeng looked at the 2 portraits in Lin Hantian's hands, and when he saw that one of the portraits was of Su Mo, he subconsciously made a sound of surprise. "What? Do you know him?" Lin Hantian raised an eyebrow and asked in a low voice. "He looks somewhat familiar, but, upon closer inspection, it is not the same person." Huang Mingfeng shook his head, and at the same time, he kept cursing the person in front of him. "Who asked you to scare me? So what if he is a primal core adept? Even if I know that he is the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, so what if I don't tell you? Bite me? Come on. Bite me." It was precisely because of this thought that when Huang Mingfeng saw the young man in the other portrait, he only glanced at him briefly before he shifted his gaze away. "You're head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, what is his level of practice?" Lin Hantian asked coldly. "Khanate stage." Lin Hantian's voice was so cold that it scared Huang Mingfeng so much that his heart trembled, and without thinking, he responded to Lin Hantian's question. After responding, he could not help but feel some regret. Why did he not continue to lie to this bastard? Khanate stage? Lin Hantian frowned, and then looked at the other disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters not far away, who had long been scared stiff by his descent from the air, and asked in a low voice, "You're head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, what is his level of practice?" However, the disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters did not realize that Lin Hantian was talking to him, and ignored him. It was not until Lin Hantian took a few steps forward and stood in front of him and questioned him that he hurriedly responded, "Late Khanate stage." Late Khanate stage. The head of the valley is a late Khanate stage adept. "My lord, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me." For a primal core adept, not to mention killing him, even if he wanted to destroy the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would be a piece of cake. Therefore, this disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, faced with the descending Lin Hantian, had long been scared out of his wits. Late Khanate stage? Lin Hantian's face darkened slightly. Could it be that people really did look alike? However, at this time, Lin Hantian still did not give up. After subconsciously putting away the 2 portraits, he went to find 2 elders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and threatened them with their lives to ask them what level of practice the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was at. Finally, Lin Hantian confirmed, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was indeed only a late Khanate stage adept. At least, a year ago, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was still a late Khanate stage adept. It seems that people really do look alike. At this time, Lin Hantian did not even bother to find the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters himself to confirm, and directly rode the giant eagle out of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Not long after, he appeared in the sky above one of the 16 countries of the East Valley. In Lin Huntian's view, even the most talented disciple of the Divine Light sect would not be able to cross 2 stages from the late Khanate stage to the Primal Core stage in a short year, much less the valley head of a small sect like the Valley of the Medicine Masters in this barren land. Therefore, he felt that people did look alike. According to some of the records of our Eagle Eye, there are 16 small countries near the Valley of the Medicine Masters, collectively known as the 16 countries of the East Valley. This should be one of the 16 countries of the East Valley. Lin Hantian looked down and then called out to the giant eagle at his feet. Although it's unlikely that those two came from such a small place, but since we're here, let's ask around in the various countries of the 16 countries of the East Valley. Chapter 174. The capital of the Xinguang Empire. Yuntai-in. The third primal core has finally been formed, but the Buddhist essence has been completely depleted and no longer exists. In the room, Zhou Donghuang sat cross-legged on the bed. As he opened his eyes, they shone brightly. At the same time, in his dantian, there were 3 hollow primal cores formed by white fog floating there. 3 primal cores. Now, Zhou Donghuang was 1 step closer to the primal core stage required by the Lord of the Four Supremes. Only by forming the 4th hollow core would he be considered to have officially entered the early primal core stage required by the Lord of the Four Supremes. At that time, he would be able to control the power of the 4 primal cores. At that time, with just his inner yuan alone, he would be able to easily crush anyone of the same level. Even a mid-primal core adept would be able to crush him. After all, although a mid-primal core adept had formed a solid core, the inner yuan that the solid core gave them was only twice as strong as that of a typical early primal core adept. And the inner yuan that Zhou Donghuang's 4 hollow cores gave him was 3 times stronger than that of a typical early primal core adept. Of course, even if Zhou Donghuang had only formed 3 hollow cores, it was enough to easily crush anyone of the same level. Just based on his inner yuan alone, regardless of anything else, he was on par with a mid-primal core adept. On March 3, 1231 of the Xian era, the 20-year-old Zhou Donghuang successfully formed his 3rd hollow core and improved his level of practice. With my current ability, and that superior primal core spirit weapon, in Ziyun, as long as there are no golden essence adepts, I will be able to dominate the world. Zhou Donghuang exuded a strong sense of confidence. These 1,000 spirit stones have only been depleted by about a third. Very quickly, Zhou Donghuang's gaze fell on the 1,000 spirit stones that had formed the energy-gathering formation. He noticed that these spirit stones were about a third dimmer than before. However, there was still about 2/3 of the spirit in each spirit stone. Without the Buddhist essence, if I continue to practice, even if these 1,000 spirit stones are completely depleted, I will not be able to form the 4th primal core. Shaking his head, Zhou Donghuang put away the 1,000 spirit stones on the bed, got off the bed, and walked out of the room. Not bad. I've entered the ultimate Khanate stage. After leaving the room, Zhou Donghuang went to the other corner of the yard to look at the golden-crowned eagle, Big Gold. He noticed that Big Gold was bigger than it had been 2 months ago. It's all thanks to the spirit stones and Xiantian pills that young master gave me. With the help of the Khanate elixir that Zhou Donghuang had refined and the spirit stones that Zhou Donghuang had given him, Big Gold's progress had far surpassed Su Mo's. No matter what, it was now practicing the demonic beast cultivation method that Zhou Donghuang had taught it. Although it was not as good as the 3 top cultivation methods of the universe, such as the 1,000-star sword technique, the fiery thunder training regimen, and the manual of unruffled sages, which were in Zhou Donghuang's memory, it was not far behind. Now, Little Gold has at most just attained the Khanate stage, or perhaps it hasn't even attained the Khanate stage yet. Zhou Donghuang shook his head and laughed. If it knew that you had already entered the ultimate Khanate stage, it would probably go mad with anger. Ha! Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Big Gold could almost see Little Gold fuming with rage. Young master, 2 months ago, you said you were going back. When are we going back? In a few days' time. Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed. In these few days, I will think of a way to get some herbs and spirit stones in the capital of the Xinguang Empire. There are so many people at home, and everyone needs spirit stones for practice. As for the herbs, Zhou Donghuang would need them to refine the elixirs. Of course, the elixirs that Zhou Donghuang could refine from the herbs that were currently available were not of much use to him, and he intended to leave them for his family. Soon, I will be leaving the Ziyun planet. Before I leave, I will do my best to create the best practice environment for them. This was Zhou Donghuang's plan. Of course, Zhou Donghuang was clear in his heart. This return would not be the last time he returned. Only after he had settled all his affairs on the Ziyun planet and had obtained the ability to dominate the entire Ziyun planet would he leave. Master. Only when Su Mo's voice sounded did Zhou Donghuang snap back to reality. Looking at Su Mo, he asked, "How has your progress been? You're almost at the mid-primal core stage, right?" "I'm still far from it." Su Mo was a little embarrassed. "I feel that, after entering the primal core stage, even with the help of the spirit stones and the power of the Buddhist essence that Master has given me, my practice speed is still very slow." "Then it must be because of your talent and technique." Zhou Donghuang shook his head, and with a lift of his hand, a space ring appeared in his hand out of thin air. With a flick of his finger, it flew towards Su Mo, surrounded by a faint white fog. This space ring originally belonged to the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu. I have refined it again, and the space inside has increased from 1 square foot to 2 square feet. Now, in this space ring, there is a technique that I have left behind. From today onwards, you will practice this technique. The primal core portion and the Dharma form portion of this technique are all recorded in the manual. After you have read it and memorized it, it is best that you destroy it. As for the primordial soul technique, I will give it to you when your level of practice is high enough. Zhou Donghuang said. The 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu? Su Mo's eyes narrowed. Master, 1.5 months ago, when I went to the Yang family to get some medicine, I heard that Lu Xuanyu had been killed. Was it you who killed him? Zhou Donghuang nodded casually. The last time I went to the black market, on the way back, he blocked my way and tried to rob me, so I killed him casually. The corners of Su Mo's mouth twitched, and the shock in his heart increased. Although his master had said before that he did not fear Lu Xuanyu. And he believed it. However, after knowing that Lu Xuanyu had died at the hands of his master, he could not help but feel inexplicably shocked. Taking a deep breath and trying to suppress the shock in his heart, Su Mo took the space ring that was floating in the air and took out the 2 pieces of paper that were filled with words to read. After a moment, Su Mo's eyes became extremely bright, and his face flushed. In this world, there is actually such a wonderful technique? Heavens! Compared to this technique, the technique that I used to practice is the worst of the worst. Now, Su Mo was extremely emotional. He would not have known if he had not seen it, but when he did, he was shocked. He had only glanced through a little of the technique that his young master had given him, and he had discovered all sorts of wonderful things about it, leaving all the techniques that he used to practice behind in all aspects. Although he had not started to practice this technique, he was still sure that it would be of great help to him. Master, what technique is this? Su Mo looked at Zhou Donghuang excitedly. The 1,000-star sword technique. Zhou Donghuang said casually, it is considered one of the best techniques in the universe, and it is a swordsmanship technique that focuses on killing. One of the best techniques in the universe? Su Mo was stunned, and when he looked at Zhou Donghuang again, his gaze was different. Master, there is a question. I don't know if I should ask. Ask away. Zhou Donghuang looked at Su Mo questioningly. You are not the reincarnation of an old monster, are you? Or perhaps, some mighty martial artist above the primordial soul stage has taken over your current body. Su Mo asked the question that had been bothering him. Although adepts above the primordial soul stage can take over another's body, they usually have to pay a hefty price. More than 90% of them will not be able to surpass their previous level of practice, and they can only wait for death in the new body or continue to live in the body until they can no longer take over. Zhou Donghuang looked deeply at Su Mo. Furthermore, after taking over another's body, the primordial soul will still be there, and with a little bit of cultivation, they will be able to attain the early primordial soul stage. There is no need to go through the process of qi gathering, primordial core, and even dharma all over again. Zhou Donghuang said. Zhou Donghuang's words had undoubtedly opened a door to a whole new world for Su Mo, and Su Mo was suddenly enlightened. These were things that Su Mo had never come into contact with before, and were not things that he could come into contact with. However, after that, because Zhou Donghuang did not mention whether he was the reincarnation of an old monster, Su Mo naturally assumed that was the case. In fact, it was more or less the same. However, in his previous life, Zhou Donghuang was not considered an old monster. Among the thousands of races in the universe, a powerful martial artist who had entered the heavenly man stage was only 1,000 years old, and could not be considered an old monster. This was because the lifespan of a heavenly man was 10,000 years. In front of a lifespan of 10,000 years, 1,000 years old could only be considered a youth at most. If you have nothing to do, come with me to the black market. Zhou Donghuang said to Su Mo, Master, you intend to go to the black market to sell prescriptions again? Su Mo asked instinctively. No. Zhou Donghuang shook his head, and a light flashed in his eyes. This time, we are going to openly meet the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Divine Light sect. Fair and square. Su Mo's eyes narrowed. In the past, when he went to the black market, he had always been secretive. Now, his master suddenly said that he was going to openly bring him to meet the third elder of the Divine Light sect. It was tantamount to completely removing his disguise and revealing himself completely to the third elder of the Divine Light sect. More than 2 months ago, after I killed Lu Xuanyu, he most likely already knew that Lu Xuanyu's death was related to me, Zhou Donghuang said calmly. The only reason he did not do anything to me was because he was wary of me. Unless he and the Divine Light sect can thoroughly investigate my background and confirm that I am not a threat to them, otherwise, they would not dare to touch me so easily. After saying this, Zhou Donghuang seemed to have everything under control. End of chapter. Chapter 175. Black Market. Inside the spacious hall. A handsome young man dressed in robes whiter than snow sat at the head of the table. The scholarly middle-aged man stood behind him, looking very humble. Soon, a series of footsteps could be heard outside the door. Following that, 3 figures strode into the hall from outside. The leader was an old monk dressed in a silver cassock. He was the person in charge of the black market, the third elder of the Divine Light sect, Tuoku. As for the 2 people following behind him, they were a middle-aged man in casual clothes and an old monk in a red cassock. For the 2 of them to be able to appear here with Tuoku, it meant that their status in the black market, and even in the Divine Light sect, was not low. Sir, do you think of yourself as the host? As soon as Tuoku entered the door, he discovered that the youth that he had only seen in the portrait was sitting in the main seat of the hall. Tuoku's complexion immediately darkened. That seat is my seat. If you want to sit, go to the next seat. Although Tuoku did not know how powerful the young man in front of him was. But the other party's actions, to a certain extent, could be considered a provocation. If he did not do anything, it would undoubtedly be embarrassing. After all, he had 2 elders of the Divine Light sect behind him. If he did not correct this matter, once word got out, where would he put his face? This seat is not bad, it's quite comfortable, I won't move, Zhou Donghuang said casually. Zhou Donghuang said calmly, furthermore, I came to you today to discuss something. I'll leave as soon as I'm done. If you want to sit here, after I leave, you can sit as long as you want. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Tuo Ku was so angry that his face turned red. Young man. At this time, Tuo Ku was so angry that he could not speak. As the silver inner yuan danced around his body, the middle-aged man dressed in casual clothes behind him looked coldly at Zhou Donghuang and said in a low voice, the third elder is giving you face by asking you to give up your seat. You don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. I have accepted a toast, but a forfeit. I, Zhou Donghuang, have not. Zhou Donghuang laughed lightly, and then his eyes narrowed. Why don't you demonstrate? You, ever since Zheng Yong had attained the mid-primal core stage and become the 15th elder of the Divine Light sect, this was the first time he had been looked down upon like this. Instantly, he flew into a rage, and a milky white light burst forth from his body, like streaks of white silk. He looked like he was about to attack Zhou Donghuang. However, at this time, Tuo Ku stopped him. At the same time, he retracted the silver inner yuan on his body. He looked at Zhou Donghuang with fear in his eyes and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" The unbridled manner of this young man in white reminded him of the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, who had died 2 months ago. Initially, he had suspected that Lu Xuanyu had been killed by a hidden late primal core adept by the young man's side. I have a deal with you. Zhou Donghuang got straight to the point. What deal? Ta Ku frowned. Make a deal? This guy, didn't he always trade with him in the black market? Why did they directly come over this time? Could it be that he knew that his identity had been exposed? I want to sell a spirit weapon to the Divine Light sect. Zhou Donghuang said calmly. Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, both Ta Ku and the 2 men behind him were shocked into a daze, unable to regain their senses for a long time. A spirit weapon? In the entire Xian planet, only the Divine Light sect and one other sect had a spirit weapon. The value of a spirit weapon in the Xian planet was immeasurable. If the Divine Light sect was willing to hand over that spirit weapon, the other 3 sects that did not have one would even be willing to exchange half of their spirit stone reserves with the Divine Light sect for the spirit weapon. Although the spirit stone mines in the Xian planet produced very little, the Divine Light sect still had a lot of spirit stone reserves. But even so, after 1,000 years, the spirit stone reserves of the 5 sects were still very large, more than 100,000. You have a spirit weapon? Ta Ku's eyes were filled with disbelief. 50,000 spirit stones, Zhou Donghuang said calmly. Zhou Donghuang said mildly, if the Divine Light sect is not interested, I will find another sect. Of course, if you sell it to other sects, it will not be as simple as 50,000 spirit stones. It will be at least 60,000 spirit stones. Seeing that we have traded with the Divine Light sect twice in the past, and everything went smoothly, this time, I will give the Divine Light sect a discounted price. Let's see if you are interested. As he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang raised his hand, and an exquisite little hill appeared in it. As he infused his inner yuan into the hill, its surface glowed with a series of intricate patterns that covered the whole of the hill. Bursts of powerful auras accompanied the surging quintessential origin energy on the small mountain as they swept out. Without needing to personally test it, Ta Ku and the other 2 had already determined from Zhou Donghuang's actions that this exquisite hill was indeed a spirit weapon. It really is a spirit weapon. Behind Ta Ku, Zheng Yong's eyes were filled with greed, and the other old monk in a red cassock was also staring at Zhou Donghuang with shining eyes. If you can't take out the spirit weapon just like that, aren't you worried that we will snatch it from you? Ta Ku's eyes were also filled with a burning desire. That depends on whether you have the ability to do so. As Zhou Donghuang spoke again, he stood up, and his eyes swept over Ta Ku and the other two. He said calmly, "The three of you, come at me together." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang's figure flickered, and his entire body soared into the air. The exquisite mountain had been kept by him at some point, and in its place was a folding fan. The folding fan opened up, and the sharp ribs of the fan appeared before everyone's eyes. If the late primal core adept behind you were to attack, he might be able to exchange a few blows with me, but you, forget it. Ta Ku said disdainfully. Because the 17th elder of the Divine Light sect, Lu Xuanyu, had been killed, Ta Ku had always thought that there was another late primal core adept by Zhou Donghuang's side. Besides, from what the young man had just said, Ta Ku was completely sure that the person before him already knew that his identity had been exposed, or else he would not have voluntarily brought up the matter of the two previous transactions with the Divine Light sect. Arrogant. Zheng Yong's face darkened, and he took a step forward, flying forward. You are just an early primal core adept. Even if you have a spirit weapon to rely on, I alone am enough to defeat you. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders, and let you know that there is always someone better out there. As soon as he finished speaking, Zheng Yong had already arrived in front of Zhou Donghuang. With a loud crash, he pushed out his palm, and a vast and condensed milky white inner yuan whizzed out towards Zhou Donghuang's shoulder. It was like a white rainbow piercing through the sun, its momentum fierce. However, in the face of Zheng Yong's lightning-fast palm strike, Zhou Donghuang merely shrugged his shoulders lightly and easily dodged Zheng Yong's palm strike. He allowed the wind from Zheng Yong's palm strike to hit his body, causing his long hair to flutter. You are too weak. As Zhou Donghuang spoke, his palm struck out like lightning, and before Zheng Yong could even brush past him, his palm struck Zheng Yong's other shoulder. The violent inner yuan was incomparably sharp, and in an instant, Zheng Yong's arm was broken. Fresh blood dripped, and it was eye-catching. Humph. Zheng Yong grunted in pain, and then he fell to the ground pathetically, standing at the side of the room. When he looked at Zhou Donghuang again, his eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. He had not expected that his opponent would be able to dodge his attack. Even more so, in such a short time, his opponent had not only dodged his attack, but had even retaliated with a palm. This level of combat experience caused him to feel as if he was fighting a monster that had walked out of the Azura arena and had experienced a myriad of battles. It caused him to feel a wave of powerlessness in his heart, and he was unable to arouse any thoughts of going against it. Hiss! The old monk in the red robe behind Tuo Ku gasped as he watched the scene unfold before him. When he looked at the youth in white again, his gaze became even more serious, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Zheng Yong's ability was no less than his. But he had been defeated so tragically. Although everything had happened in the blink of an eye, he could see that Zhou Donghuang had not been lucky, but had controlled everything in the palm of his hand. With a turn of his hand, he could summon clouds and rain. If it had been him, the result would have been similar. An early primal core adept, how could he have such skills? The old monk in the red robe trembled in his heart, and at the same time, he subconsciously took a step back. If he could, he really did not want to face this young man who had crippled Zheng Yong's arm in one move. Lu Xuanyu, did you kill yourself? Even Ta Ku didn't know why, but at this moment, he subconsciously asked this question. In the past, because he knew that the young man before him was only an early primal core adept, he had never completely linked Lu Xuanyu's death to him, but in that moment, he could clearly feel that if the young man had not stood up for him, Zheng Yong would have been dead. You think it was someone else who killed him? Zhou Donghuang asked with a faint smile. It seems I have underestimated you. Tuo Ku's expression darkened, and he said bluntly, that spirit weapon of yours, the Divine Light sect wants it, but since you have the intention of sparring with me, I will grant you your wish. At the same time, as Zheng Yong said earlier, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders, and let you know that there is always someone better out there. As Tuo Ku's voice fell, the silver inner yuan on his body bloomed, making him look as if he had transformed into a person wrapped in silver light. Bang! As Tuoku's legs shook the ground, the entire floor of the room suddenly sunk in. Horrifying cracks spread out, just like a giant spider web crisscrossing together. At the same time, everyone in the black market felt the ground shake violently. What's going on? An earthquake? End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.